Are we really missing this?
You okay with that?
30.
Will all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation this evening will be offered by Council Member Dave Rosenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. When the First Amendment to the Constitution was passed, it included what is now commonly referred to as separation of church and state. Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, Thomas Jefferson wrote, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legislative powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. The practical application of this is, of course, murky. Certainly, each of us is elected based on a set of values, and we govern based on those values. And for many of us, those values come from a religious tradition and/or religious practice. We're getting ready tonight to consider various pieces of legislation that will impact Nashvillians' lives, including our operating budget, which will dictate much of our city's activities for the next year. And it will reflect our priorities, those values we each hold so dear. So tonight, in that spirit, I'll ask for a brief moment for our members and those here with us to contemplate each person's role in ensuring that we fulfill our duty with honor, with integrity, and in compliance with our values and the shared values of our friends throughout the community.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin the meeting, 3 notes. Councilman Jason Potts and his wife Amanda had a baby boy, Easton Wayne Potts, and he came home today. On less happy notes, our good friend at the water department, John Honeysucker, still remains in Vanderbilt Hospital with some pretty severe burns that he suffered in an effort to assist one of his neighbors, I believe. I hope you'll keep him in your prayers and thoughts. And finally, on the saddest note, our colleague and lawyer, Mike Jameson's father-in-law, did pass away yesterday after a brief illness. Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of meeting of June 13th, 2017? Without objection, those minutes will stand approved as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Madam Clerk, unfortunately, I've been informed that that's the last time I'll have the opportunity to ask you that question. Let's all give... We congratulate you on your new position running our city's Human Resources Department. We will miss you, and we may call you back on occasion just to, get you some TV time. We know you have aspirations. We now move to elections and confirmations. Is there a report from the Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee? Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Members of the council, there is a committee report from the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. The first review that we had was for the Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board. The appointment of Mr. Terry Atwood for a term expiring June 20th, 2021. I will tell you that the committee sort of pseudo-voted and said he was our favorite person because he answered the question about why he was on this board. It was because someone called him and he didn't know what else to do. So he decided to serve on this. We did vet him. He seems like a very good individual for this. The committee approved this 8-4-0 against, and I would move for approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. Terry Atwood to the Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Fire Building Codes Appeals Board, the appointment of Mr. Rich McCoy for a term expiring June 20th, 2021. That one was vetted, approved 8-4-0 against, and I would move for approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. Rich McCoy to the Fire and Building Codes Appeals Board. It's been properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeals Board, the appointment of Mr. Phil Harris, Jr. for a term expiring June 20th, 2021. Very interesting candidate. He went to high school with one Brenda Haywood, who is sitting over here to my right. He refused to answer any questions about Council Lady Haywood, so we weren't sure whether to ask him any more questions or not. He actually tried to run out of there, but we actually approved that one 8-4-0 against, and I was moved for approval.
It's a motion to approve Mr. Phil Harris, Jr. to the Gas Mechanical Examiners Appeals Board. It's been properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Schulman.
Historic Zoning Commission, we had 3 to look at. The reappointment of Ms. Caitlin Jones for term expiring June 1st, 2022. Reappointment of Ms. Cyril Stewart for term expiring June 1st, 2022. We approved both of those 8-4-0 against. Those were both, again, reappointments. On the appointment of Ms. Elizabeth Smith, she withdrew her nomination, and so she won't be considered.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Ms. Caitlin Jones and Mr. Cyril Stewart to the Historic Zoning Commission. Those are properly seconded. Council Ahart.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was visiting the Rules Committee when this was taking place, and I was just wondering if it were possible that they not accept the withdrawal even though it was submitted. Is that possible that could have been done during that time?
Is it possible that the committee would not have accepted the withdrawal?
Yes.
I don't think the committee primarily makes recommendations to the council as a whole, so the committee could not have done that. Since it's a volunteer position and it's my sense that she withdrew her name, we could not force her to participate in this commission either.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask because she might have wanted someone to not accept the withdrawal.
Well, the committee, I don't believe, could have done that. The council as a whole, I guess, could consider doing that, but it would be hard to force somebody who withdrew their name not to volunteer, I would say. Thank you, Councilman. Council Lee, I appreciate your comment. You've heard the motion for confirmation of Ms. Caitlin Jones and Mr. Cyril Stewart to the Historic Zoning Commission. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Nashville Education, Community, and Arts TV, NECAT, appointment of Mr. Joe Woolley for a term expiring February 5th, 2018. Filling the unexpired term of Mr. Joey Leslie. We did question Mr. Woolley. Seems like every time we meet, we have a new appointment to NECAT. We believe they have a commission of about 100 people. We approve this one 8-4-0 against, and I would move for approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Mr. Joe Woolley to NECAT. It's been properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Last one, Metropolitan Transit Authority, reappointment of Ms. Gail Carr Williams for a term expiring May 1st, 2022. She's been on that board, I think, longer than I've been on the council both terms. But she likes serving. She's doing a great job. She is the chair. Approve that one 7-4-0 against, and I would move for approval.
You've heard the motion for confirmation of Ms. Gail Carl Williams to the Metropolitan Transit Authority. It's been properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We would like to thank those members of our community who have offered to serve. If you'd please stand as I call your name and remain standing until I have called everyone's name, I would appreciate it. To the Electrical Examiner and Appeals Board, Mr. Terry Atwood. To the Fire and Building Codes Appeals Board, Mr. Rich McCoy. To the Gas and Mechanical Examiners Appeal Board, Mr. Phil Harris Jr. To the Historic Zoning Commission, Ms. Caitlin Jones and Mr. J. Cyril Stewart. To NECAT, Mr. Joe Woolley. And the Glutton for Punishment, Ms. Gail Carr Williams. To the Metropolitan Transit Authority. We do thank you very much for your service to the city, to your willingness to volunteer, and thank you very much. Council Lady Mina Johnson and others, we do have a presentation if you'll move towards the rear.
Thank you. I'm the board chair.
We're going to go next to
I think he is.
Then we're going.
Hey, I thought he is. What number was he? I think. Hi. How are you? Hi.
Wednesday. Okay. I need to check
my little speech ready. Hey, you ready to get to work? Yeah. Good job, guys. We'll see you this weekend. Thanks, buddy.
Council Lady Johnson, the floor is yours.
See you, Councilman. Phil Camucci. Hi.
Always a pleasure. Good to see you. Always a pleasure. We're gonna read the thing,
Yeah,
and then we're gonna introduce you.
Okay, well then I have a little thing here.
Yep.
Hello.
Okay, so that is gonna go second. Okay. Hi, girls. Hey, it's good to see you. Thank you for the privilege, Vice Mayor and members of the council. This weekend, we will have a Pride Festival, Saturday and Sunday, so I thought it would be so suited to present this resolution to recognize Resolution number RS 2017-744, a resolution recognizing Thursday, June 1st to Friday, June 30th, 2017 as Nashville Pride Month, celebrating the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities and their enormous contribution to the quality of life in Nashville and Davidson County. Whereas our pride encompass Nashville Pride, has been a strong advocate and supporter of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT communities throughout Middle Tennessee, and is celebrating Nashville Pride in the city of Nashville.
And whereas the City of Nashville is honored to welcome members of the LGBT community and their allies to celebrate a very special and important event honoring the diversity, inclusion, and history of the Pride and Gay Rights movement. And whereas the theme for this year's Nashville Pride is Forward Together, which evokes the history of the LGBT rights movement and the history of Nashville Pride. The Nashville Pride celebration and movement continues to grow and celebrates inclusion as a necessary ingredient to making Nashville and the United States truly diverse. Nashville Pride has grown immensely and is now one of the largest public weekend festivals in Middle Tennessee, reminding us to embrace what makes each individual unique and to use those qualities to change the world for the better. And
whereas the Pride movement has an auspicious history in the United States and Nashville. Early on the morning of Saturday, the 28th of June, 1969, LGBT persons rioted following a police raid on the Stonewall Inn, a gay bar at 43 Christopher Street in New York City. In Nashville, the first Pride Parade took place in 1988, not with a riot, but with and as a positive stance against discrimination and violence toward LGBT people. The parade promoted self-affirmation, dignity, equality rights, and increased the visibility of LGBT persons as a social group to build community. This June will mark the 29th consecutive Pride event in Nashville. And
whereas the City of Nashville would like to thank the Nashville Pride Board of Directors, working groups, sponsors, and all of the volunteers for their continued support and commitment to the mission of Nashville Pride over the past 28 years. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County that the Metro Council hereby goes on record as recognizing Thursday, June 1 through Friday, June 30th, 2017 to be Nashville Pride Month, celebrating the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities and enormous contributions to their quality of life and the city of Nashville. And it's our pleasure to present this to the Nashville Pride Group.
Thank you, Metro Council, for your support as we celebrate this month to acknowledge and celebrate the LGBTQ community and with this honor. This year, as in years past, we are focused on moving forward together, which is meant to energize our community and those communities in which we desire full equality and equity. We have to understand that equality is intersectional, and intersectionality is the inclusion of all people, no matter of race, sexual orientation, gender identity, economic status, or physical ability. The way that we move forward together is with a little grace, peace, and love. Please join us on June 24th and 25th, right in front of this building. Thank you again for this honor. Absolutely.
Kathleen? Here.
Call the previous question after if he gets the omnibus on, and that way we don't go through the 11 amendments.
No.
You want to do that?
Let's go through them all.
Okay.
Everybody needs to get it, burn it out.
I'll just vote them down. I don't know if anybody knows.
We're still on the same plan. Same plan. Members of the council, we're going to, since it's the final vote, hopefully, on on the operating budget, we'll be taking things out of order a little bit, just frankly because we have to on a couple of items. And I just want everybody to know that I'll be going slow. So anybody who raises their hand, they'll get a chance to speak. but it's a little bit more complicated tonight, so I hope you'll just trust me and that everybody will get a chance to speak on everything, all right? Without objection, we will take on page 12 of, I think it's page 12 of your agenda. It's on mine, page 12. BL 2017-722, the operating budget. Is there objection? Seeing none, BL 2017-722, Councilman Cooper approves the budget ordinance of the Metropolitan Government for fiscal year 2018. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I move the substitute as amended, 722.
Okay, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get onto the substitute, then we'll come to the amendments in the amendment packet. All in favor of the substitute?
Aye. Opposed?
We're now on the substitute. But before we proceed any further, I'm gonna ask Mr. Jameson if he will describe the substitute. And I'm also gonna ask him to give the committee report while he's doing it.
The committee report on substitute BL 2017-722 was approved 14 and nothing.
Mr. Jameson, can you move your mic closer? I can't hear you.
Sorry. BL 2017-722 before the Budget and Finance Committee was substituted and approved as amended, 14-4-0 against. A short summary of the substitute as originally proposed, not as amended. As originally proposed, there would be no change to the tax rates in the GSD or USD with any of the additions or changes. $885,000 was dedicated for school nurses, $400,000 to Public Works for essentially 3 programs, traffic and right-of-way operations and district cleanup, $350,000 to the District Attorney's Office to fund salary increases. Again, this was prior to amendments, so several of these additions may since be altered, but it also included $262,500 to the Public Defender's Office, $124,000 to the Metro Historical Commission for an architectural and assistant position, $118,200 to the Department of Codes for 2 inspectors, $100,000 to In Full Motion, $97,900 to the Office of Internal Audit, $85,000 to the Metro Council Office for an additional staff member, $68,500 to the Property Assessor's Office for an additional property appraiser, $60,000 to the Sister Cities program, $50,000 to the Finance Department to provide studies for fee increases, and $25,000 through Metro Family Safety for the YMCA. There were over a dozen funding expenditures. That is a summary of the substitute as originally proposed.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would move to suspend the rules and consider an Amendment 12.
There's a motion to suspend the rules. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council. Obviously, this is our operations budget, the most important thing we pass. There are a number of rules that sort of need to be suspended in order to get there. I know the Rules Committee kind of went through it. We're all on our own here, but in the interest of trying to get our budget correct and right and in the right format, we think it's proper to move ahead and suspend the rules to get to that point. I know we're taking the entire budget, and now we're looking at amendment number 12 to pull up, but at least personally, and again, everybody's on their own, I am good with the idea of getting this budget in the right format, and I would be agreeable to suspending the rules to get there.
Is there objection to suspension of the rules? Seeing none, Mr. Jameson, could you explain Amendment 12?
Amendment 12 would amend the substitute ordinance by allocating $118,200 to the Codes Department for the additional inspectors, $150,000 to the nonprofit 50 Forward, $200,000 to the nonprofit In Full Motion for a total of $250,000, $50,000 to the HCA Charlotte incentive, and $40,000 to the Public Defender. There would be 4 reductions from accounts: the Coliseum maintenance, $250,000, JFON, $150,000, legal aid, $112,500, and stormwater, $45,700.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Councilman Cooper, the floor is yours to move Amendment 12.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. After a very full discussion yesterday, and
Let's move the amendment first.
I would propose to move the amendment.
There's a motion to approve Amendment 12. It's properly seconded. Councilman Cooper, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone's time and effort. This omnibus amendment really does a lot of the work of the other amendments, 1 through 11. It tries to do it in a very practical and coherent way, making it easier for the administration. It was prepared working closely with the administration today to make for a very smooth process. As Mr. Jameson said, it incorporates much of the really rich and full discussion that the Budget and Finance Committee had last night and represents the priorities of that committee. And having it in one amendment as opposed to a lot of amendments, I think is an appropriate way to do that. And I hope you've all, in almost every case, I think I've seen almost everybody here in the council. And again, I would move for its adoption as representative of the will of this body as expressed in our 5-hour meeting last night, where all of these subjects were discussed in detail and with real passion. Thank you.
I'm going to, Councilman Glover, you're first to be called, but before I do that, I just want to make sure everybody understands that if we adopt Amendment 12, I'm still going to go through Amendments 1 through 11. Many of them will be irrelevant, and I expect they'll be withdrawn. Some are not incorporated into Amendment 12, and everybody will be given a chance to move that amendment, and we'll have full discussion on that. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And this really is just a housekeeping question for Mr. Jameson. Given the fact that we will go through the remaining 11 amendments, then do we have to ask to suspend the rules on that if we're going to automatically withdraw our amendment?
If the intent is to withdraw, that will be made clear, then there'd be no reason for suspension.
Okay, thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to take a brief opportunity, since this is the opportunity for discussion, just to commend our budget chair for his patience and the many meetings that he held. And so I really appreciate that, because budget time can get really tense. But not one time did I see him get short with any of us. You might have felt like it on the inside, but I didn't see it. So I do want us to just give him a hand and show him that we do appreciate him. We really do. We appreciate your hard work. So we want to commend you for that. And it's the yeoman's work. So we really do want to appreciate you for that. Also, we want to commend the mayor's office for helping us as well. And I do think that there was some wonderful discussion last night, and I do think people were very passionate. And I think one thing is, once we pass it, everybody is clear about what's in this budget, because we spent quite a few hours on it, so it's no discussion there. So once again, I just wanted to thank the chair of the budget, I wanted to thank the mayor's office, and I wanted to thank all the council members for their hard work. And if I rolled my eyes at you one time, we're okay now that budget's over. So thank you very much.
I hope that wasn't premature. We haven't even voted on it yet.
We're going.
Councilman Scott Davis.
I just want to echo the sentiments of my two wonderful colleagues, at-large councilperson Eric Gilmore, who's a good leader, and John Cooper. Thank you for being patient. And I want to thank the members of the Minority Caucus and our honorary members from the Donaldson Hermitage community who worked with us together, and our Madison friends, and all of you council members who supported 50 Forward and in full motion. We're finally making Nashville, we're going in the right direction, making it the IT city for everybody. And I appreciate all your efforts. Glover, Hager, Schulman, Sharon, so many of you. I can't thank you all enough. Mayor, staff, thank you. Mayor Berry, thank you.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a clarification. Under the codes additions in the substitute, it mentions 2 mechanical inspectors. If, for example, they wanted 1 mechanical inspector and 1 electrical inspector, have we given them the leeway to do that?
They would have it.
They would have that. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you. And likewise, if it says inspectors, that could also be a zoning examiner, for example. Perfect. Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Go on the roll call, please. Councilman Kendall. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, if you close the machine.
I have 35 for, 1 against, 1 abstention.
Motion carries. That brings us then to amendment number 1. Councilman Kendall, are you seeking recognition? Okay, all right. No, there we go. Councilman Elrod, amendment number 1.
Move to withdraw.
Motion to withdraw. Without objection, it'll be withdrawn. Amendment number 2. Councilman Elrod.
I move adoption of this amendment with a brief explanation.
Was this one was properly before the committee?
Yeah. Right now there are, and I apologize, I meant to get the facts and figures with me, but several departments oppose or charge fees for different services. Public Works, for instance, excavation permits, right-of-way closure permit fees. Those fees are, according to state law, supposed to pay for the operations that go along with those permits and in administering those permits. Codes, of course, has a variety of different fees for inspections and that kind of thing, building permits. And right now, at least in Public Works, they are bringing in more money than they are, or at least on paper, there's about, I think, $2.2 million between excavation fees and right-of-way permit fees that are more than what they are spending in the right-of-way permit division. Codes is bringing in more money than is being spent on their staff. So what this amendment would do would allow that money to stay with the individual departments, and they would have to basically be able to keep up their level of customer service to the public, which I think members of the development community and certainly the walking and driving community would say that there's not enough being done to keep our right-of-ways open. And I think that you would be able to hear from the development community and others that the codes department, that they still need, even with the adoption of Amendment 12, that they still need more staff. So what this amendment would do would allow them to keep that money, but if they, let me read it, that they're authorized to hire additional employees or contract for services. It doesn't require them to do it, and then they're able to return whichever amount of money. If they believe that their current level of funding that they're receiving meets the needs, they can return, all of it to the general fund, and then it be dispersed back out. It does give the departments discretion, which I think is important, because if they are having more work, then they need to hire staff or contract for work. There was discussion last night at the budget committee about that. We have up and down fee revenue. That's why I put in that they can contract for services. That way, if they have a busy 6 months, they can hire a 6-month employee or something of that nature. But I think we all have concerns about the level of customer service in some of the departments, and those departments have fee revenue that I think should go toward paying for new staff to meet that customer service. And I'm going to move adoption.
Councilman, I've been informed that if this amendment goes on to the substitute budget, that the budget would not be in balance, and we could not adopt the budget. You still want to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think in spirit, I agree, because I think that the customer service issue and a number of the metro departments are absolutely right. But in the same breath, Vice Mayor, I agree with you. We would literally be turning 14 to 15 million back over to departments that has been utilized in the financing of the city. And so I think it's something that as we go forward, I would certainly like to work with Councilman Elrod on how do we address the customer service issue. I won't be supportive of this tonight because, frankly, we did spend a long time here last night, and we've spent a long time over the last 6 weeks trying to go through this. And unfortunately, in the 11:30th hour here, it does throw us out of balance. And so if we did adopt this, then it creates unintended consequences for all of us. And so therefore, I'm supportive of the theory. I'm not supportive of the actual bill itself. I do hope that we do take it up in Budget and Finance, and we look at how do we adjust to where the customer service is improved for each one of our constituents and each one of the people who are pulling permits, et cetera, in the city. But I can't support it because it will throw the rest of the budget in disarray. I mean, our substitute budget, Councilman Cooper can correct me, it's less than $3 million that we're moving. And in this one bill, we'd be talking about moving $14, $15, $16 million. And I think there would be too many unintended consequences. So with that, again, I support the spirit of it, but I can't support the bill. Thank you.
Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually just agree with what the councilman previous to me just said. That makes me very worried. What I would say is I really do like this idea, but I also watched the, I was not here last night, but I watched the mesmerizing budget committee on television. Turned it off after 3.5 hours because I needed a break. But I understand what they were doing, and I understand what the councilman who's sponsoring this was trying to do. But as I understood it, and I think it may have been Director O'Neill that said this basically gets our entire budget out of whack. It doesn't make it balanced, and it's not the right thing to do at this point. I like the concept, understand the thing with codes. I just think we're certainly not ready to do this at this point. We can certainly talk about it in the next several months. I think the councilman's on the right track, but we're not ready to do it tonight, and I'm going to have to vote against this as well. Thank you.
I see you standing, Councilman Elrod. I'll come back to you. I know. Council Lady Allen. Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I just think it's important as we have this discussion that everyone is aware for the listening audience that the mayor's budget included an increase in the number of property standards for codes, and that the substitute budget included 2 more codes officials for zoning examiners, and then with this amendment, we also are adding more. So we are, with this budget, adding increased personnel to help with citizen with customer service. And I think it's important for people to know that we are aware of that and that we are addressing it as much as we can within the budget that we're working with. So I think that's important. Thank you.
Councilman Elrod.
I'll move to withdraw.
The motion to withdraw is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And that brings us to amendment number 3, Councilman Glover. I believe that is included in Amendment 12.
Move to withdraw.
Motion to withdraw is properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Amendment number 4, Councilman Mendez.
Thank you. Do I need to ask for a committee report on this?
Let's get a committee report, yeah.
The Budget and Finance Committee voted against 5 to 6 with 1 abstention.
Thank you, Councilman.
Move approval of this Amendment 4.
There's a motion to approve. It's properly seconded. Do you want to explain it, or would you like Mr. Jameson to?
I would like to.
Thanks.
So this would provide $5 million more in operating funding for Nashville General Hospital, and in deference to the fact that we've spent hours and hours this year and last year and in budget hearings, I won't rehash all the points. It was a close vote in committee. The funding source wouldn't take any money that needs to be spent in fiscal year 18, and the hospital needs it. This is to serve the poorest of us, and I would request that this be approved by the council. Thank you.
Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I just would like to also stand and rise in support of Councilmember Mendez's amendment. You know, the hospital authority, as he shared, we've had a lot of discussion about it. And I just want to share 2 points, because I am the chair of the Health and Hospitals, and we did have a little discussion about it today. And I just asked 2 questions, because I heard the questions that were asked yesterday. And one was, what difference would it make if we gave them $5 million? So I asked that of the CFO, and she shared with me that the hospital would greatly appreciate this money because what happens each year, because the facilities are in such need of repair that they pull sometimes from the facilities or the what we would call the lack of a better word, I'm just going to say the capital budget, and they use it for the operational budget. And there's also a legacy of debt. And some people keep on saying that it's mismanaged. It's mismanaged. It's not. They asked for $55 million to operate this year, and they did not receive there. There's a legacy of debt and bills that have not been paid. And so sometimes they're just paying to keep up versus being able to put it into the things that they need. And so I would just stand and ask if you have it anywhere in your heart that we make sure that the hospital is sustainable and it's a place that people want to go. And then another question I heard yesterday, and so I followed up with that, was do they have the persons in there for the revenue cycle to retrieve those monies? And she shared that they do. They have 2 more people, which is a total of 3. That was confirmed. And she shared that they needed 3 more other people as well. But she said that that would pay for itself. So I feel like the hospital is on the right track. However, I feel like we have to commit to help them. And it may take a lot of money, but I mean, that's a national discussion that everyone's having. And we just have to decide as a city that our constituents are important to us. And I'm going to share one more story. As a matter of fact, when I was coming in this morning, they were talking about the effects of the affordable health care. And they said that Tennessee was the only state that opted not to expand it. And how does that look? And so they had people from rural counties driving 70 and 80 miles up to Chattanooga that were working people to get their teeth fixed. They couldn't even get their teeth fixed. And so I think we take it for granted sometimes because we may have health insurance and it costs a lot. But it is really up to us as a city to make sure that our citizens have affordable health care and that they have access to it. It is just going to cost a lot. It's a national conversation. Health care is not cheap. But once you invest in that, you have citizens that can have a good way of life because they're productive. If they can't have good health care, we don't have a productive society. So that hurts revenue anyway. So I just wanted to say that overall, I'm pleased with the budget. I'm kind of disappointed that we could not get anything in the capital spending nor the operational budget for Metro General. I thank you for your time, and I ask you once again, you can't do the costs because health care is just so expensive. It's just something that we have to commit as a city to say that we're going to do it or we're either not. Thank you so much.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It's not a question for me of it being in part. It is a question, however, of as I look at how much we've invested in the hospital over the last several years. And this past year, I think we gave another $15 million on top of the subsidy that we provided, maybe $20 million. And we've done that for several years in a row now. So the $5 million might be enough to get us through it. It might not be. But at the end of the day, when things are good, and things are good in the city right now, we do need to be putting money into our savings account, because at some point things won't be as good with our economy, and we need to prepare for that. And I think that's what we're trying to do with it. And we don't have assurances that if we do this in November, they're not going to come asking for a greater subsidy anyway. So for that reason, I want to keep an open mind as we look into the future on this, but I can't support taking $5 million out of a future savings account in order to maybe fix a problem or maybe not fix the problem. I think we hold the accountability piece up and we look at it. If they've got to come back in, we take each one of these situations on its merit and go from there. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilman Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to rise to say this, and this is just sitting here. It's something that my grandmother used to say. You know, with this issue, we can't rob Peter to pay Paul. Those are just fictitious issues, and we're dealing with real issues, especially with health care. We have family members, I know I do, that utilize the hospital. We have other family members or loved ones or people that we may know or people that inside of our districts that will be able to use or have to use the facilities that we have. We cannot sit around and pretend like this is not an issue. At the beginning of the budget cycle, there was $55 million requested. We have continued to do, the councilman spoke about them coming to ask and asked and asked again. That's because it is a repetitive cycle that continues to go on to when they ask for what they need, and we continue to give them shrubs. We continue to give $10,000 or $5,000 or $5 million, excuse me, not thousand, but $5 million, and expect that to answer life's questions. It is not going to do that. We got to fix it. We can't pretend that the issue is not there. These are working people that are out there. I feel really, really horrible because a lot of our health insurance expenses, as us as legislators, are paid for. A portion of it, because we pay a little bit too, but a portion of it is paid for by the people that need these facilities. And we cannot sit around and pretend like this is not an issue. Yeah, we got to look at savings. I'm a finance guy too, and I know the councilman is a finance person as well, but we cannot continue to act like this is not an issue. We got to fix it. We got to take care of the things that we have within our community, and if we don't do this, if we don't stand up and do something for our community, I got to say myself, I don't think we should be where we are today. If we're taking care of our own, we're going to be okay. But we got to take this step. This is not a choice that we got to forget about. And I hate that it came to this position to where we got to bring it up at this point in time. $35 million is not going to do it. $35 million is actually not what they have to operate on. Like I say over and over again, they have Bordeaux and Knowles Hospital of the retirement that they pay out of that. And then for the facility that they work in, they have to pay for that as well. There's individuals who I've seen to where even my mother, birth mother, they have to reschedule a surgery for her. Guys, we gotta fix this. And if we can't fix this issue, if we can't try to assist this plan, we don't need to be here. Thank you.
Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'm agreeing with everybody these days. I'm agreeing with Councilman Hastings, but to a point. So I agree. We have got to fix this problem. It's been going on for so many years, and we have got to address these concerns. But we're in a budget discussion, and that's where I have concerns. At some point, as everybody knows, we got to make hard decisions on this. I very much appreciate the work of Councilman Mendez and Council Lady Gilmore on this. I know they've tried almost everything they can. But, again, I'm a big fan of General Hospital, and we have got to figure out how to solve this. But, again, it's budget time. We have to figure out what we put in this budget. We've got money in there. Love to put the $5 million in, but at this point, it's just not time. We're going to have to get through this budget, and then at some point, we really have to address these things. We have got to figure out how to make this thing work, and I agree with you. Again, budget time, we have to decide certain things. This is not in the budget that came out of the Budget Committee yesterday. At sometimes we have to vote against things that we really want to put in. This is one of those times. We have to hold this budget intact. And so at this point, I'm going to be voting no on this as much as I like General Hospital. Thank you.
Ms. Lehert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in support. If we don't do it now, we're going to do it later. They are going to come back because they cannot afford to run the hospital on $35 million. It's just like us having a mortgage of $2,000 a month, but we only have $1,000. And if you pay $1,000 on your mortgage and you owe $2,000, soon you're going to get put out. And if we don't stand up and do this, give them something to start collecting the debt that is owed to make a difference. The hospital itself has done and continues to do an amazing job. I've had 30 years, 35 years of supporting this hospital, and this is the first time in this history that I've seen the president of Meharry as well as the CEO of the hospital work so well together. We don't want to lose that traction. We need to move forward and do something now. I disagree with the councilman because it's gonna come back. It will come back, and I expect it to, because it has been made crystal clear. So I stand and I encourage my colleagues to take this first step and do this now so we can move forward in a very good, progressive way, because they use monies to meet the joint commission that's required of them. The hospital, the operating monies, just to stay in the approved accreditation state that they need to be in. So I just urge you all to vote for this amendment. Thank you.
Councilman Kendall.
At our last meeting, I think I spoke on this issue. General Hospital, I'm in support of this motion. I think my colleagues who have spoken in support, Mr. Mendez, Ms. Gilmore, Mr. Hastings, I think they make very good points. But I just want to say I got breaking news. Mr. Glover said Nashville is an it city. We're making a lot of money in this city now. But it's not an it city for everybody. And those people who this hospital serve, it's not an it city for them yet. Hopefully it can become that. But we're talking about a hospital that serves, as Mr. Mendez has said, the neediest people in this city. We're talking about $5 million. I know it sounds like a lot of money, but when do you decide to buy a new car? When you're broke or when you're making all this money, as Mr. Glover has said that we're doing so well in this city? We're never going to fix this problem if we keep looking at it, talking about it, putting Band-Aids on it, and not seriously trying to find a solution. I understand the CFO there has done a great job in a turnaround effort. I hear that from a lot of people. I've spoken with them myself. I think this is a time. This is a time that we give them the opportunity. Because, you know, we keep saying, well, they'll be back. Well, they'll have to be back if we don't try at this point to give at least enough dollars for them to operate in a fashion without having to scrape crumbs off the floor and that kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Councilman Scott Davis.
Regardless how you vote tonight on this, no matter how this goes down, I want them to get the $5 million. If they don't get their $5 million, and if they do, like I've said before during our work sessions, and I want to schedule it, I don't know when, but I do want to have a joint caucus, and with Chair Lady of Health and Hospital, Erica Gilmore, and with our budget chair to really dive into this. And I do invite the talented people from the finance office, Tanya, Zach, or anybody else to join us in solving this. I learned a lot. Every budget, I learned a lot. But I learned we have dedicated funding sources for the arts, which is important, and for the Adventure Science Museum, science is important. We need a dedicated funding source that's in our charter for the hospital. And I really believe in that. And no matter how you vote tonight, if you need a doctor or you need a checkup, and everyone in this chamber should have insurance, visit and use general. And that's what we have to do. That's how we turn around the hospital. And it's going to be an even bigger crisis coming up soon, because if we read, Williamson Medical potentially may be gone soon. And there'll be more people relying on General Hospital. So no matter how you vote tonight, we have to revisit this. And once we know what's in the 4% 3 months or 5 months from now, you know, I do want us to sit down, and I'm going to call a meeting and invite the Chair Lady Gilmore and Chairman Cooper and the men and women of Mayor Berry's administration and finance department to participate with us and really get down in the nitty-gritty. And if anybody can find the money, it's you, Steve. So I encourage you to support the hospital. If you can't vote tonight, please make that commitment with us to find them the money at a later date. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Councilman Hager.
We were at the budget hearing on this the other day, and the biggest thing about this, I remember back 6-7 months ago when we gave General Hospital the $15-20 million to pull them out. We did that. And the question arose that I continue to hound on is their collection practices. They had about $6 million that for some reason they didn't file on time, and those claims were disallowed. Now, what I understand now, there's about $2 million that's been collected, but there's still about $4 million out there they need to collect. So I'm a staunch supporter of health care, and I know that General Hospital is a safety net for some of our lowest income people, and I understand that completely. But at the same time, they told us back then that they were going to get all this straightened out. And as a judge used to tell me, say what you mean and mean what you say. And instead of telling me what you're going to do, show me. And that's what I want done first. Show me what you're going to do to collect this money. If they collect this $4 million they're working on now, then they don't need this $5 million right now. But at the same time, I know if they get into a terrible situation, they're going to come back here with a resolution just like they did 7-8 months ago, and they're going to ask for the money, and then I can ask again, have you collected the $4 million? So yes, I'm putting some pressure on them, and that's the reason I can't support it at this time, because I want to see what they're going to show me what they're going to do. Thank you.
Councilman Pardue.
Call for the question.
All in favor? Opposed? No. Motion carries. That brings us to a vote on amendment number 4. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion fails. If there are 4 seconds, we'll have a roll call vote. Madam Clerk? I misstated the rule. It's a 1 request for a roll call vote and 3 seconds. So 4 people. Madam Clerk, if you'll close the machine and tally the vote.
I have 15 for, 20 against, 2 abstentions.
Motion fails. That brings us to amendment number 5, Council Lady Van Rees. Is that to be withdrawn?
Yes, sir. In light of Amendment 12, item number 6, I would like to withdraw.
I'm on 5 first, though.
Yes.
5 and 6?
No, I'm sorry. In light of Amendment 12, item 6, I would like to withdraw.
Okay.
Amendment
All
5.
right. Okay. All right. Amendment number 5, without objection, is withdrawn. Amendment number 6, Councilman Scott Davis, I believe the same. Is that to be withdrawn?
I'd like to withdraw, Mr. President.
Without objection, amendment number 6 is withdrawn. Amendment number 7, same.
Yes, sir.
Without objection, amendment number 7 is withdrawn. Amendment number 8, same.
Yes, sir.
Without objection, amendment number 8 is withdrawn. Amendment number 9, Councilman Cooper.
Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 9 is withdrawn. Amendment number 10, Councilman Cooper.
Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 10 is withdrawn. Amendment number 11, Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Budget and Finance voted in favor, 13 for, 1 against.
Okay, I appreciate that being on the record. I am going to move to withdraw with a brief explanation, if I may.
I'm sorry, you're withdrawing with a brief
I'm going to move to
explanation?
withdraw with a brief explanation. I
The floor
wanted
is
the
yours.
committee report to be on the record.
Floor is yours.
As you saw, our Budget and Finance Committee supported this amendment 13 and 1, so I was somewhat dismayed to see this assessor position still in our budget when we have in Budget and Finance and hearings indicated that it is not necessary in my view, but more so I just rise as a member of our Public Works Committee and someone who cares about the issues of transportation and walkability and the work that we're needing to do in our major corridors and what we hear from our constituents as it relates to traffic and moving around this city efficiently and economically to support our good quality of life. I was dismayed to see in the substitute budget that we were taking away staffing in public works for planning and engineering in support of those goals that we share with this administration. And I think we as a council hold, and that is why I brought this amendment. But I do understand that this is a complicated process, but I did want to be on the record in that regard. And with that, I will move to withdraw the amendment.
Without objection, amendment number 11 will be withdrawn. Thank you, Council Lady. We are now back on the substitute with all amendments having been considered. Councilman Cooper, do you renew your motion to approve the substitute as amended? There you go.
As amended. Thank you.
I have 3 lights here. Is anybody still seeking recognition? Councilman Bednay? No? Councilman Bednay? Councilman Pardue? Councilman Pardue, are you seeking recognition? Councilor Gilmore? All in favor? I'm sorry, we're going to need a roll call vote on this just to make sure. Madam Clerk, if you'll open the machine. Council Lady Johnson.
Councilwoman Vercher's screen is not signed in. It somehow signed her out, so she is unable to vote by machine unless we can get her screen up and going.
Well, we'll go ahead and get somebody working on her screen. In the interim, once everybody else has voted, I'll come to you, Council Lady Vercher, and you can vote by voice.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Council Lady Vercher, what's your vote? Council Lady Vercher? Yes. Madam Clerk, will you record Council Lady
Yes.
Vercher as a yes? And I think everyone else has voted. If you'll close the machine and tally the vote,
With Ms. Vercher voting yes, we have 35 for, 1 against, 1 abstention.
motion carries. That brings us to the consent agenda. Correct? I'm going to consent now, right? The tax rate?
If you want to do 723.
All right. It does not bring us to the consent agenda. Without objection, we'll take substitute BL 2017-723. Councilman Cooper establishes the tax levy in the General Services District for fiscal year 2017-2018 and declares all the amount required for the annual operating budget of the Urban Services District. Councilman Cooper.
On 723,
Let's just move.
Sorry, on the resolution 723.
It's been approved by committee.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, that's all.
Motion to approve.
It's a motion to approve. It's properly seconded. We need a roll call vote on this one. Madam Clerk, if you open the machine.
It's already been substituted last meeting. Yep.
Madam Clerk, did we adopt the substitute at the previous meeting?
Yes, sir, and there was not one in the packet for this meeting.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, if you'll close the machine and tally the vote.
Well, I have 31 for, 0 against, no abstentions.
It's adopted. That was the tax levy. Okay. Anyone who is not voting and would like to have their vote cast, please raise your hand. Are you all voting yes?
Okay, hold on just one
Okay,
second.
Rose, keep your hands up. Madam Clerk,
4.
tell me when you're ready.
Just those 4. It's Mr. Davis. I'm sorry. Are you raising your hand or are you waving? Okay. So I just have the 4. Is that correct?
Okay, that's
Thank you.
We got you. That brings us to the consent agenda.
I think so.
The following items are on the consent agenda: RS 2017-747 through 758, 760 through 763, and 765 and 766. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'm going to have to recuse myself from 755 and 756.
Madam Clerk, are you comfortable just marking him as recused, and I'll keep those on the consent agenda? Thank you. Seeing no one else, RS 2017-747. Councilman Cooper, Councilman Bedney approves a grant from the State Administrative Office of the Courts to the Davidson County Juvenile Court for interpreter translation services for individuals with limited English proficiency. RS 2017-748, Cooper and Bedney approves a grant from the Tennessee Administrative Office of the Courts to the Metro Government for interpretation translation services for court hearings involving individuals with limited English proficiency in the Davidson County Trial Courts. RS 2017-749, Pridemore, Cooper and others approves a grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Arts Commission for funding to nonprofit organizations to conduct community arts projects in Davidson County. RS 2017-750, Councilman Cooper approves a Community Correction Services grant from the Tennessee Department of Correction to the state trial courts to divert felony offenders from the Tennessee prison system by providing community supervision and treatment services. RS 2017-751, Councilman Cooper approves an amendment to a contract between the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services and Metro Government for establishing agreed rates for court-ordered evaluations and treatment for defendants charged with misdemeanor crimes. RS 2017-752, Cooper and Pardue approves a fire prevention and safety grant from the United States Department of Homeland Security to the Metro Nashville Fire Department to implement a department-wide training program designed to increase the investigative capacity needed to determine the act of arson or an arson-related crime. RS 2017-753, O'Connell, Pardue, and Cooper approves a Nashville bike grant from the Tennessee Highway Safety Office to the Metro Nashville Police Department to conduct vehicle and bicycle stops for the purpose of educating public and gaining compliance with state and local ordinances. RS 2017-754, Councilman Cooper approves an amendment to a letter of agreement for tobacco settlement funding to the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to fund various programs addressing family tobacco use. RS 2017-755, Councilman Cooper approves a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to the Metro Social Services Commission to provide delivered meals that meet RDA nutritional guidelines to eligible seniors and to provide transportation to elderly persons who are unable to drive or have no other transportation available. RS 2017-756, Councilman Cooper approves a grant from the Greater Nashville Regional Council to Metro Social Services Commission to provide nutrition, home, and community-based services to eligible seniors throughout Davidson County. RS 2017-757, Councillady Weiner Henderson Cooper. Approves a grant from the Tennessee State Library and Archives to the Nashville Public Library to provide access and circulation of special materials formatted for individuals who are hearing impaired. RS 2017-758, Elrod and Cooper. Approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to the Metro Public Works Department to assist in the annual operation, maintenance, and facility improvements of a household hazardous waste collection facility. RS 2017-760, O'Connell and Elrod authorizes Pinnacle 4th and Peabody LLC to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 415 4th Avenue South. RS 2017-761, Rosenberg and Elrod approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works for a general maintenance agreement for a traffic signal at State Route 1 near the intersection of McCrory Lane. RS 2017-762, Murphy, Kendall, and Elrod approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works for a traffic signal at the I-440 interchange at Murphy Road. RS 2017-763, Pulley and Elrod approves an intergovernmental agreement between the Tennessee Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Works for a traffic signal at the I-440 exit ramp at State Route 106. RS 2017-765, Councillady Hurt requests a Metro Nashville network in conjunction with the Department of Public Works prepare and broadcast public service announcements promoting pedestrian awareness and safety. RS 2017-766, Councilman Leonardo requests the Nashville Fire Marshal's Office to conduct an assessment of its special event permit fees to determine whether current fee amounts actually or cover actual costs associated with issuance of said permits. Committee reports. Councilman Cooper, Budget and Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance met and voted 14 for, 0 against to recommend to the Council 747, 748, 749, 750, 751, 752, 753, 754, 755, 756, 757, and 758. Thank you.
Councilman Swope, Codes, Fair Farmers Market.
Codes passed and recommends approval on 766, 3-4, 0 against.
Councillady Gilmore, Health, Hospitals, and Social Services. Councilman Pulley, Health, Hospitals, Social Services.
Health, Hospital, and Social Services Committee met to review RS 2017-754, 55, and 56. 754 was recommended for approval 5-0. 755 and 756 were recommended for approval 7-0.
Thank you, Councilman. Councillady Henderson, Parks, Library, Recreation.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Parks, Library, and Recreation Committee met to discuss Resolution 2017-757 and recommended approval, 5 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councillady. Councillady Allen, Planning, Zoning, Historical. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillady Johnson, did you handle that? I think I saw you on TV.
Yes, sir, Vice Mayor. We voted approved 8-4-0 against.
For 760, 761, 762, and 763, correct? For all 4 bills?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you, Councillady. Councilman Pardue, Public Safety.
Public Safety considered 752, 753, 766. Passed all 3, 5-0.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Elrod, Public Works.
Public Works recommended for approval, Resolutions 758, 760, 61, 62, 63, and 65. 10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Shulman, Rules of Confirmation.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. All committee reports are in. I would move for approval of all resolutions on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda with those 2 recusals noted. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us back to RS 2017-682. Councilman Cooper establishes the certified tax rate in the General Services District and declares the amount of the certified tax rate for the Urban Services District. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted 14-4, 0 against to recommend this to the council, and I move for approval.
I believe there's a substitute. Let's move the substitute first.
Let me move the substitute.
Mr. Jameson, would you explain the substitute?
The substitute acknowledges the approval by the Executive Secretary of the State Board of Equalization, so it moves from the future tense to the present tense, is to was. It also changes the fire tax transfer from 4 cents to 5 cents. That will not offset the levy otherwise.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I move.
Did we adopt the substitute? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Cooper.
And I move for approval as substituted.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm gonna exercise my discretion as Vice Mayor and ask Ms. O'Neill if she will make sure that everybody understands exactly how low the certified tax rate has gone, because this is a moment for us all to relish.
Okay. With the adoption of this certified tax rate, it will be the lowest rate in the history of Metro Nashville government.
And we're thankful for all of the growth and development in our community that has resulted in this. Is that not right? We're now on this substitute. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RS 2017-685. Councilman Cooper approves the Metro Animal Care and Control fee schedule. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted 14-4, 0 against, and I request the other committee report.
It's already been approved by Health.
Already been approved? Oh, all right. Then I move for approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RS 2017-717. Councillady Murphy, Councilman Cooper. Adopts new pay plans for the general employees of the metropolitan government, excluding employees of the Board of Health, Board of Education, and the police and fire departments. Effective July 1, 2017, July 1, 2018, and July 1, 2019, and establishes the salaries for the new public defender, vice mayor, and members of the Metro Council effective upon the beginning of their new elective term for that office. Councilman Cooper. Councillady Murphy, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted 14-4, 0 against to recommend.
Councillady Murphy.
Personnel Committee voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions, and with that, I'd like to move for approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion. Let's have a roll call vote, please. Madam Clerk, if you'll open the machine. She's walking over now. Madam Clerk, if you'll close the machine and tally the vote.
34-4, 1 against, 2 abstentions.
Motion carries. RS 2017-718, Councillady Murphy, Cooper, and Gilmore adopts new pay plans for employees of the Metro Board of Health effective July 1, 2017, July 1, 2018, and July 1, 2019. Councillady Murphy.
Committee reports, please.
I'm sorry. I think we have all committees in. Oh, no, it says Budget and Finance. I'm sorry. Councilman Cooper.
Which voted 14-4, against to recommend.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilor Murphy.
Personnel Committee voted 4 in favor, 0 against, and with that, I'd like to move for approval.
This motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill RS 2017-719. Murphy, Cooper, and Pardue. Adopts the new pay plans for employees of the Metro Departments of Police and Fire effective July 1, 2017, July 1, 2018, and July 1, 2019. Council Lady Murphy.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Budget and Finance voted 14-4, 0 against to recommend.
Council Lady Murphy.
Thank you. Personnel voted 4 in favor, 0 against, and with that, I move for approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. RS 2017-720. Council Lady Murphy, Councilman Cooper, provides longevity pay for employees of the Metro government, including employees of the Board of Health. Council Lady Murphy.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. Budget and Finance voted 14-4, 0 against to recommend.
Council Lady Murphy.
The Personnel Committee voted 4 in favor, 0 against, and with that, I'd like to move for approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to RS 2017-759. Councilman Hager, Councilman Scott Davis authorizes the reapplication for an amendment to the official zoning map to rezone property located at Sharp Avenue unnumbered, for which an amendment was previously disapproved within the past year. Councilman Hager. I'm sorry. Councilman Hager.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This was
committee reports, please.
Sir?
Committee reports.
Committee report.
Councilor Allen. I'm sorry, Councilor Johnson.
Yes, committee voted 6 support, 2 abstention.
Councilman Hager.
Yeah, this was a bill that my fellow Councilman Scott Davis had in his district for a piece of property that's kind of in a no man's land and been used as a dump and everything else. And the last time we voted on this, it was not passed by 1 vote. I want it to be brought to the council floor again and vetted, and Councilman Davis have an opportunity to bring this up and try to make this a viable piece of property in his district that he wants so bad. And I'd ask for your support to at least bring it back to the council floor. Thank you.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think this is probably the first time any of us have seen a resolution procedure like this, so I'd appreciate it if Mr. Jamison could just explain this process to my colleagues. Thanks.
Certainly. This original bill, BL 2017-673, was brought before the council on April 4th of this year. It was a zone change from RS5 to RM20. The ordinance had been disapproved by the Planning Commission, so as you know, requires 2/3 approval by this body. It failed on 3rd reading by a vote of 26-0, with 4 not voting and 10 abstentions. There's a code section 174010 that states explicitly that a failed zoning bill cannot be resubmitted to Metro Planning for a period of 1 year. An exception exists for council members, and upon adoption of a resolution, the application can be resubmitted to planning. It would then go through the 3-reading process before this council as previously. The Planning Commission's original recommendation persists for 2 years, however.
Councilor Murphy.
Thank you for that explanation. That was something I was going to ask for. This is, in my opinion, this is very similar to kind of asking for a suspension of the rules. And something that I had asked in Rules Committee earlier tonight was that we address in our future committees meeting how many times that we have suspended the rules and taken things up. Because I do feel like while we have an order and process that we are suspending the rules a lot and that we are making exceptions for a lot of things. And that's my concern, is that our constituents in the city of Nashville, and I think each one of us expect things to kind of go through the general order that we all abide by. And I have concerns that if we are going to make this exception to not have a waiting period of this year, what type of precedent does that set for constituents and neighbors when things go through the process? So thank you.
Councilman Scott Davis.
let me familiarize our neighbors with the bill here. And number one, no opposition. What is going on with this property over here? At a codes meeting, we saw an email from, from Bill Penn's office. Bill Penn could not attend the codes hearing. So Ronnie Mitchell, which is his deputy, our second in command, attended. The adjacent property owners threatened the codes board. And I don't know, when we saw the emails and we saw what was going on in dealing with this property in the no man's land off railroad tracks, many of you who were voting in opposition went out there and looked at it, and I appreciated you at the time, and then you agreed to abstain. While dealing with this, I know how Councilman Hager felt about what happened at the codes hearing with dealing with this land off the railroad tracks. And once again, no community opposition. No one knew this existed, when dealing with this piece of property. And we are asking you to bring it back for further discussions. We think we have a solution, along with the codes department and some of the hardworking staff members are planning to address the concerns that were going on with this piece of property. But once again, not every part of everybody's district is fabulous. Not every part, as much as I love East Nashville, there's still some parts of it that need to be worked on. And we also found out that we also can have a presentation after the planning presentation too, to really show the detail. And it was late. The meeting went on till 12 o'clock. And I kind of thought we didn't need an explanation, but we're going to bring it back. And sometimes not every plan is perfect. And so we're going to bring it back to fix this issue with the railroad track and this large piece of property in no man's land. I appreciate the council's support. It'll go back in front of planning. It'll go back in front of the commission and the planning committee. Our land use policies aren't always easy in everywhere part of the county, but with the experience and with codes, I'm bringing our director out to that site, and he's like, wow, this is crazy, Doug Sloan, and so it needs to be revisited. If I recall, I'm not trying to put you on the spot planning. I do not want to speak for the director if he's not here, but I believe the director didn't have an issue of bringing this back forward through a resolution. Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. At the risk of providing too much information, I think it's fair to say that when this got voted on the first time, I needed to step out of the council chamber for a minute, and I would have voted in favor of it if I had been here. I just missed the vote. So it would have passed last time if I had been in the room. I felt it was fair to mention that.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Mayor. I actually happened to do a police ride along with our East Police Precinct fairly recently over holiday weekend, and we had an opportunity to visit this area and attempt to locate some individuals, and I got to see it up close and personal. And this is an area of East Nashville, that Unicorn, which is an area that desperately is needing a little help over there. So I'm in favor of this bill. There were some extenuating circumstances as to why there were not enough folks at their desks at the moment when it originally should have passed. But we need to work with Councilman Davis to get this passed as quickly as possible, to get some investment to improve that particular corner of East Nashville. Thank you. And I rarely say that, but thank you.
Councilman Party.
Call for a question,
All in
please.
favor? Opposed? Motion carries. All in favor? Sorry? I'm sorry, Council Lady?
I'm sorry, not for the call for the question. You are asking for the call for the question.
Right? And you're voting no?
I have no objection for the call for the question.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
We're on RS 2017-759. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lots of discussion about something that was unanimous. I'm just going to say. Oh, okay. One abstention. Okay. I didn't understand that. I'm sorry. RS 2017-764, Council Lady Haywood. Authorize the creation of an adventure tourism district for certification of an adventure tourism district pursuant to the Tennessee Adventure Tourism and Rural Development Act of 2011. Council Lady Haywood.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. At this time, well, I actually submitted a recommendation that I would be deferring this indefinitely. So I still call for the committee report.
Yes, ma'am.
Committee report.
There you go. Thank you. The Convention, Tourism, and Public Entertainment Facilities voted in favor of deferral, 5 in favor, 0 against.
Council Lady Haywood.
Okay, at this time, thank you so much. At this time, I will like to defer it indefinitely.
There's a motion to defer indefinitely. Properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to bills on introduction and first reading. Without objection, we'll take all those matters together. Seeing no objection, is there a motion to approve? Properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to bills on second reading. Bill 2017-691, Council Lady Murphy, Elrod, and Allen, abandons existing easement rights for property located at 3900 Alabama Avenue. Council Lady Murphy.
Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Allen. I'm sorry, Council Lady Johnson.
Yes, committee voted request from the council lady to defer indefinitely, 8-4-0 against.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommended a indefinite deferral, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Council Lady Murphy.
Thank you. With those, I did request an indefinite deferral. I prefer that when we're giving up the easements that we know what the plan is for using that property. And so I've spoken with the property owner and I appreciate a motion for deferral indefinitely.
Motion to defer indefinitely. Properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-726, Councilman Mendez and others. Amends the Metro Code to add a requirement for the Department of Finance to maintain a written debt management policy for the metropolitan government. Councilman Mendez.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Budget and Finance voted to recommend, and as the substitute, isn't there a substitute? Both 14-4-0 against as substituted.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mendez.
Move the bill.
Move the substitute.
Move the substitute, rather.
The motion to substitute is properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You're on your bill as substituted.
Move the bill as substituted with a brief explanation.
Floor is yours.
This is to augment Metro's debt management policy, and since we met last on this, I've worked with Metro Finance, appreciate their efforts, and we've worked out some agreed language which is reflected in the substitute. This would add to the debt management policy more ways to measure and keep track of the amount of debt and debt service we have, and also add a discussion to the policy of what impact, if any, our unfunded OPEB obligation and pension obligations have on debt level and bond rating. I'd like to support, in addition to Metro Finance, the co-sponsors, council members, Swope, Cooper, Wiener, Allen, and Henderson for their support. I'd ask for you to vote for the bill as substituted.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I, too, am going to support this. I think this is the right move. I have withdrawn my resolution asking to hold it a certain level. I think this gets us in the right place. One of the things that I think we all applauded tonight was the fact that our property taxes are at an all-time low. What that scares me of is that we can artificially think that we've got more money to spend going forward in the future than perhaps we do. As we've gone through the reassessment period, there's a number of people in town that are paying higher property taxes, while there's some who are paying a little bit lower. So I applaud Councilman Mendez for doing this and those who helped sponsor it, and I hope that the debt is something that is continued to look at on a very close basis moving forward. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'm pretty sure the sponsor spoke to this, but could we ask, I just want clarification. It sounds like Metro Finance does support this.
Yes, we do. We worked with Councilman Mendez on the substitute.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill 2017-737. Councilman Pardue and Elrod amends the Metro Code concerning the regulation and permitting of passenger vehicles for hire. Councilman Pardue.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Hager.
Parking and traffic passed or approved 5-4-0.
Councilman Pardue.
Public safety passed at 5-4-0 again.
Is there an amendment? I'm sorry, Councilor Van Reese.
Thank you. Conventions, tourism, and public entertainment facilities voted 5 in favor, 0 against, as amended, but I didn't hear the amendment.
We'll get there. Councilman Pardue, is there an amendment on this?
If there is, I didn't have anything to do with it.
It's housekeeping in nature. So.
Oh, okay. The housekeeping mail.
All right. There's a motion to amend. Is properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You're on your bill as amended.
Move for approval.
Motion to approve. Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Just a quick question. I think this is getting to platform vehicles, and what I wasn't sure about was if these things are being, it sounds like they're being taken off the streets or removed. That's what I'm trying to figure out. And are they being grandfathered? I know that there's a bunch of those things out there. Are they being grandfathered out, or how is this going to work if we pass this measure?
Intent is that the Traffic and Licensing Commission has regulatory authority over several types of vehicles, taxis, limousines, and so forth, but there are some types that they do not have jurisdiction over. If we can, by passage of this, increase the passenger limit from 15 to 21, that will increase their jurisdiction and the ability to regulate those vehicles. We'll be adding them to Title VI and Title 12. Everything under those types of vehicles described there, the Traffic Transportation Licensing Commission can regulate. Everything that's not in Title VI and Title 12 as of tonight, assuming passage, would come before this body to be approved for licensure by the TLC.
Okay, so I was trying to read the analysis. Does that mean that these things would be banned if we pass this?
Well,
is that or would they have to go to the Transportation Licensing Board?
It would go before the TLC for licensing, and if it's not, right now they've got a limitation on what they can regulate. For example, the long platform trucks pulled by tractors. They don't have the regulatory authority over that, and this will, depending on the type of vehicle it is, bring it under the jurisdiction of the TLC to regulate.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Could you also explain what that regulation might include? Could it include prohibiting, for example?
It would include some pretty tight restrictions on speed, hours of operation, operators, what their requirements and qualifications are, age, licensure requirements. We've had some pretty extensive restrictions imposed upon vehicles in this body, and you've seen the TLC's pretty lengthy restrictions on what they can apply. So
Gotcha.
It's fairly rigorous.
And does the council have the opportunity to weigh in on what those are? How does that process work?
Yes, it can be amended.
The actual regulations and what's required?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Elrod.
I think I'll be brief. Basically, it increases the number of passengers a vehicle can carry that they can regulate from 16 to 21. That includes the driver. And that pretty much gets them the vehicles that are buses. And so, to put simply, a vehicle has to be able to have some kind of legal means to operate on the roads. So for low-speed vehicles, medium-speed vehicles, pedicabs, pedal carriages, those are done by the TLC locally. So anything over 21 then has to have some kind of state authorization or law. That's what your license plate does. That's what allows your vehicle to operate on the roads. So I know there were some concerns about how far-reaching this would be. But that's essentially what it is. If your vehicle's 21 passengers or less and can fit into one of these categories, it can be licensed by the TLC. If it can't, then it can't operate on the roads unless there's some other state law that that they can fall under. For instance, there is a tractor that pulls a hay wagon around downtown. And while there's a court case on owner, that is not an agricultural use. That is somebody driving folks around downtown for entertainment, tourism purposes. So I think it's to create a finer line there of what they can and can't regulate. Thank you.
Councilor Murphy.
I think I was confused on the procedural. Was the amendment passed with this bill in committee too, or did we just override the committees that by passing it on the floor? The amendment was considered in the committees too? In all committees?
I believe the amendment was considered in committees.
Okay. And then my second question is that I've had, well, I guess not a question, more of a statement. I've had some concerns from business owners in this industry that they had not been able to have input before this legislation came before us. And I just wanted to see if the administration could speak to whether the Traffic Licensing Commission had reached out to the industry owners that are currently operating before they filed this legislation.
I'm sorry, I think as I understand it, all this does is give the TLC the authority to regulate. There's no regulations that we're adopting tonight, correct?
I think what the concerns that I'm hearing is that there was not input being sought before this was being, either their power was being expanded over who they would be regulating. And so I was just asking if the administration, if they had reached out to industry and business owners on this, and if they'd be doing that before third reading. I guess I'm not seeing movement from the administration's table, so I think that gave me my answer. Thank you.
Councilor Van Rees.
Hi. Yes, on behalf of the Convention, Tourism, Public Entertainment Facilities Committee, I wanted to remind you that we're still waiting for the mayor's office's study on slow-moving vehicles, and we'll be hearing from them shortly, I understand. So I know that there's been some confusion as to whether or not this has anything to do with that. This is something separate. So just wanted to make sure that you knew that that was still something that we're discussing, and we're eagerly waiting for that study to be completed so that we can discuss that separately. Thank you.
Councilman Hager.
To answer some of those questions, I know one of the gentlemen on the party barge, which this is one of those things, was there at the meeting. And I've talked to one of his representatives, and I told him he would need to talk to Billy Fields, which is over that program. And this is just a mechanism that they go to them to get the licensing for whatever type of vehicle they got. So maybe that'll answer some of the questions.
Thank you, Councilman. No one else seeking recognition? We're on this bill as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-738, Councilman Syracuse, amends the Metro Code pertaining to hourly rentals of hotel rooms. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Swope.
Codes Fairs Farmers Market, considered 738, passed it, 3-4-0 against.
Councilman Pardue.
738 passed public safety, 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move approval with brief explanation.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. My friends, this bill is actually quite simple. There's two parts to it. One is that you cannot market or sell a rate less than 10 hours. And then the second part is that you cannot get a discount or a rebate for using a room less than 10 hours. I want to thank members of the Tennessee Business Association who are present here today, who engaged with me on this and had great conversation. There was some questions about the 10-hour rate, and some of our motels and owners have deals with airlines like Southwest and whatnot, and if pilots and stewardess come in late and only really need the room for 7 hours, does that mean they have to use it for 10? No, of course not. That just means that you cannot market or sell a rate less than 10 hours. And so this bill, the 10-hour substantiation is what many other cities have done across the country. The DA last week came out in support of this. We are trying to reduce crime statistics in certain areas and improve the economic development potential. Illicit drug use, prostitution, and human trafficking are issues that are all over. So this, I believe, is a good bill. It's a simple bill, and it makes a positive difference, and it has broad support and no objection that I know of. Thank you. I move approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill 2017-739, Mendez, Sledge, and others, amends the Metro Code regarding federal civil immigration laws. Councilman Mendez.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Pardue.
Passed public safety 3 for, 2 against.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Mendez.
Move approval with an explanation.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. So there's 14 sponsors for this bill, and it's a public safety bill that relates to the how we treat the 12% of Nashvillians who are foreign-born. Some are citizens, some are not. Many families have people who are both citizens and not, and there's growing evidence that in our immigrant communities, everybody, citizen and not, avoids contact with dealing with local government. When somebody's afraid to report a crime or be a witness, all of us are less safe. When someone is afraid to get immunized or have their kids immunized or attend parent-teacher conferences, the entire community is damaged. The goal of this bill is to have Metro comply with every last obligation we have under state and federal law, and beyond that, cities are allowed. Cities are allowed to have choice, and they are allowed to exercise their choice about how much above and beyond their legal requirements they do. And this bill would have us send a message to our immigrant communities that it is safe to engage with metropolitan government for all the basic local government services that we provide. There's been much talk, mostly from people outside the county, about whether this constitutes being a sanctuary city. I don't know how to be more clear about this. The dog whistle politics of saying the word sanctuary and people riled up is really easy, but the fact of the matter is that the Attorney General of the United States of America on May 22nd this year issued a memorandum defining what sanctuary jurisdiction means to the federal government, to the current administration, and there is no way that this bill triggers the definition of sanctuary jurisdiction of the federal government. That is smoke and mirrors. It's a way to get people afraid to deal with this. For the safety of our entire community, we must have everybody who lives in Nashville be able to participate in our local government. At our last meeting, we did a resolution honoring Bishop Chobe, and who unfortunately passed away, and I quoted a verse from the Bible that reminded me of him. It was, "You shall treat your neighbor as your own." That was the vision that he had and how he dealt with people, and that's the fundamental motivating force behind this ordinance, to treat all our neighbors as our own. We don't have any control of the federal borders. We don't. People move here due to economic reasons. We know that. That's why the city is booming. But when people get here, they are our neighbors, and they need to be treated as our neighbors. All of Nashville's residents add their own distinctive note of individuality to Nashville. When our immigrant neighbors, citizen and not, are silenced, Music City is out of tune. These bills are meant to allow us to comply with all federal and state law and also celebrate all of our voices. I'd urge you to pass this, please.
Councilman Swope.
Thank you, Your Honor. With sincere respect to the sponsors of Bill 739, in the next few minutes, I do hope to share with you some of the disastrous impacts this legislation will have on our great city if passed this evening. The hundreds of millions of legal immigrants that founded and built America over the last 240 years have defined our nation as a global leader and as a land of true opportunity. But throughout our entire history, we have maintained legal immigration policies and have created a country where everyone is equal under the law of the United States that we all accept and obey by virtue of citizenship. I'm not an attorney, and I don't claim to have the specific knowledge that some of my counterparts in this esteemed chamber possess. However, my education and decades of travels around the world have permitted me the common sense to know in my heart when something is wrong. 739 is wrong. The presidential executive order presented in January does nothing but clarify the existing laws set forth in both the U.S. Constitution and the Immigration and Nationality Act of the United States. Collectively, they empower both state and local law enforcement agencies to enforce our existing laws within the legal parameters of specific codes to better serve the legal citizens of our great nation. Comparatively, Mexico has a zero-tolerance policy towards illegal immigrants and any citizen who aids them. In 2016 alone, Mexico deported over 107,000 Central American immigrants, as compared to a mere 104,000 deported from Central America and Mexico by the United States in the same time frame. If an illegal immigrant is arrested for any crime in Mexico, there is no pathway for citizenship, no green card, no food stamps, only jail time and immediate deportation. These same policies are true for almost every other developed nation in the world, and many of them have far more stricter policies than Mexico. And most are currently tightening their laws due to the rampant increase in radical Islamic terror attacks worldwide. I ask, at what point are we going to stop treating our legal voting constituents differently from those who are not permitted by law to even vote? We are being asked through the passage of Bill 739 to recognize a completely different set of laws, or rather, simply ignore the existing ones. The ordinance before you this evening actually creates a new class of illegal immigrants, which is exempt from obeying the laws that govern legal Americans. Are we asking our local law enforcement, by the passage of this bill, to ignore federal and state law and not ask a criminal any questions concerning their legal status in our country? Hey, if I'm pulled over for a traffic violation, which happened this afternoon, the first thing a law enforcement officer requests is proper and legal identification. The policy change that 739 creates grants preferential treatment to a criminal class, thereby actively discriminating against legal, law-abiding residents. Put simply, any type of sanctuary city-like policy promulgates favoritism and discrimination against every legal U.S. resident. One can certainly argue that in passing 739, we are putting criminal illegal aliens above the law, creating a class of protected illegal criminals while simultaneously creating another class of ignored legal victims. And to me, that makes little or no sense whatsoever. Putting aside the federal law that prescribes immigration policy in the United States, I feel it would be a travesty if I were not to address how the state of Tennessee will respond to this proposed ordinance. We are purposely provoking the state yet again. Who remembers the affordable housing policy recently passed by this council, which was struck down within months of being enacted? Who recalls Amendment 3 regarding workforce housing demands on private developers found the same cold reception at the state level? And most recently, simply proposing to ban short-term rental properties has already created lawsuits that have cost this city and our tax-paying constituents over $150,000, $104,000 which is owed at this very moment.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I yield my time to Councilman Swope.
Councilman Swope.
Haven't even considered voting on a ban yet. 739 will cause both the feds and the state to reduce transportation funding, eliminate grants, and discontinue social programs, which I believe are all important and relevant aids to the continued success of a great city. As you know, as most of you know, I have worked very closely with elected officials both in Washington, D.C. and in Tennessee. I can say with a very reasonable degree of certainty that if this ordinance passes, the state will pass legislation nullifying 739. It may take until the January session, but you can count on it happening. So I ask, what's the real cost of this bill to Nashville? The answer is almost certainly in the millions, that it's going to cost us between lawsuits, state, federal, and loss of grants, social programs, etc. In addressing this conversation locally, I spoke with the DA's office recently and was made aware of another concern I have about 739. The attorneys who work in our city are currently permitted to issue U visas to illegal aliens who are victims of aggravated crimes, thereby granting them and their families U.S. legal status. While I can't quote a hard number, it was revealed to me that upwards of 10% of illegal immigrant victims testifying for the DA are granted these visas on a regular basis. Bill 739 will eliminate that program. I believe that hurts more illegal immigrants than it could ever help. In summary, any policy that invokes a feeling of sanctuary city status does nothing except create a criminal class that is treated better than the citizens who have elected all of us. It discriminates against every immigrant who has legally fought to become a U.S. citizen, and it will forever change the character of our city, not to mention the monetary resources that will evaporate should this legislation pass tonight. I ask that you consider your vote on this bill very, very, very carefully. Nashville is not an island surrounded by blue ocean. We're an integral part of the state of Tennessee and further an integral part of America. Both entities are specifically tasked by their respective constitutions to defend and protect our borders against any and all alien threats. I offer that 739 comes very close to violating these relationships, very close to ignoring existing federal and state law, and makes me really ask the one question: why are we poking the bear? Thank you.
Councilman Scott Davis.
My colleague to my left, that was very eloquent. You know your stuff, and we tend to sometimes agree to disagree. This is one of those occasions. But I respect your opinion, and I enjoy your debate, and you're a very smart and strong individual. Let me apologize. Let me put on my Democratic hat real quick. Many times in this country, I look at all of you. I look at the Schulmans. I look at the Hastings. I look at the Haywoods. I look at the Hertz. I look at the people's last name Mendez. I look at the different folks in this community. I look at the Italians, and I look at the Irish. I look at the cops. I look at everybody that's been dumped on by the U.S. government. I look at several minorities. I look at women who are still fighting to get equal pay as a man. And when I look at stuff like this all the time, and I'm like, when is this going to be enough? It's okay to kidnap people from different countries. It's okay to force the Irish to pick potatoes. It's okay to make the Italians do terrible things to get over here and to force Italians into slavery. It's okay to put Japanese people inside internment camps who have been citizens of this country. And that was very wrong. It is okay to talk about and to target Muslims. It's okay to target Hispanics, and it's okay to attack Jewish synagogues. It is not okay. And as of right now, I am not as eloquent or as forthright, and I am not as strong as some of these other members in this chamber. But sometimes I have to tell the state, you are wrong. We are human beings. And right now, our brothers and sisters are hurting. And I apologize for looking at the crowd, Vice Mayor, but these people are scared. You know, we have people from different countries. Some look like me. Some look like Mr. Schulman. Some look like Ms. Haywood. Some look like Mr. Cooper that are scared right now. And we have to help. As citizens of Nashville and citizens of the body, we have to do something. You know, when workers who clean hotel rooms downtown can't get their wages because the guy has said it. Oh, I don't have to pay you. You're illegal. When I get pulled over in South Nashville and they assume I'm Ethiopian because I'm dark-skinned and they target me, that's wrong. And lots of things that happen in our communities, we have to face the facts. We're not perfect. I don't have all the answers. But right now in this city, we've been all hearing about, are we really its city? Are we really its city? Tonight, we are taking those steps. Mendez has taken that step. The Gilmores have taken that step. Sharon Hurt, Hastings, Leonard, the Schulmans, Sharon, Nancy Van Rees, we are taking steps. We love everybody in this city. And we have to show it to our brothers and sisters who may not have the proper paperwork at this time. I want them to become citizens. I have the largest Guatemalan population in my district, and I love those people. They are my constituents. Even though some of them may not be able to vote, and some may or may not be illegal, I don't know. I am not the full body of U.S. government. I'm a small councilman in a great city of Nashville, Tennessee, and I have to stand up for my people. Even though they can't vote for me, or even before couldn't vote for me, they are still my constituents, and I still love them. And so are the people in South Nashville. You know, those are our South Nashville brothers and sisters constituents. Even though they cannot vote or need some help, But they have a voice, and we have to tell them, I'm sorry you can't vote for us. I wish you could. I'm sorry that people discriminate against you because you escaped a bad situation in a country where somebody was discriminating against you for being different. I'm sorry that you left with your kids on your back to make a better life for them. I am sorry that they put your relatives and your great-grandparents in the concentration camp. I am sorry that we kidnapped you from Africa. We've been hearing the same old thing for all our lives. Everybody in this chamber has a background, you know, where they have discriminated against our relatives. And we need to stand and fight for these folks. And I am supporting Schulman. If you don't vote for it, we are still friends. We will work together. But please support. I apologize, Vice Mayor.
Councilman Bedney. Councilman, I'll start you over in a second. I know their passions are high, but we're not going to applaud till you get out of the chambers, okay? Thank you. There you go.
So I've been reading all the emails we get where people say, if you come here legally, I want to support you, but if you come here illegally, you shouldn't be here. And then I'm thinking, here is a legislation where you can show that you care about people that come here legally, and you're speaking against it. Have you read the legislation? This legislation is great because it gives people like me, like Council Lady Johnson, the peace of mind that we won't be profiled, that we won't be forcing our police force to have to do a work that they are not trained for. I hope you guys read the email I sent with it. It was a lengthy email, I'm sorry, but I was just trying to explain to you something that is very hard to understand unless you are an immigrant. I am an immigrant. I've been here for 27 years. I have to go across the border to Canada and be stopped by the immigration people because I had a weird visa called J1, okay? People don't know about these visas. If I were to send my passport to get it renewed, I have to send my passport and my citizenship diploma. I won't have any way to prove that I'm a citizen until I get the passport back. There are many reasons why lawful residents, lawful citizens, really can demonstrate that they are lawful in this country. If you don't do this thing that Gray Mendes and Sledge, I really thank you for doing this, because we don't have any way to get that protection if we go along with what the president is asking. Furthermore, I would like to know how many of the people that are against this legislation had put it on the budget to support the enforcement, because the president is not paying for this. We are paying for this. It will cost, if we do this to the full extent, to keep 33,000 people in jail for 180 days, it costs $400 million. Did any of you put it on the budget to keep $400 million to keep people in jail? Have any of you put it on the budget to train the police in immigration enforcement? We have a police force of 1,400 people that, in the words of the chief of police, they are not trained to do immigration enforcement. If they don't know what a J-1B visa, how are they going to be able to decide if I'm lawfully here or not? Please keep in mind, if you care about immigrants such as myself, like my family, please support this legislation. If I were to ask any of you, if you have ever been asked if you're a citizen, you all probably will say no. Probably Ms. Johnson got asked. I know Jagovia was asked because people thought she was Mexican. I was asked, but probably none of you were asked. That's what profiling is about. When people assume that you are not a citizen just because you have an accent or by the color of your skin, that's what we are setting ourselves to do if we don't pass this legislation. We need to protect our police from having to engage in a practice that they are not trained for. It's going to be a liability for us. People are going to sue us. If they arrest Mina Johnson, she will have the right to sue for having been singled out as a undocumented immigrant. So the federal funding thing that somebody mentioned before that we will lose it if we were to do a sanctuary city, if we chose to defy the federal government. And if we were doing that, I will be the first one to vote against it. I will ask you not to do it like I said the first time we started after President Trump was elected. I don't believe we need to have a sanctuary city. I don't believe we need to defy the federal or the state government. This is not what we are doing. We are just passing a legislation that will give us some protections for people like me,
I deserve to be seen as innocent. I don't have to walk around with a star on me showing that I'm a citizen. I should have the right. Thank you.
Councilman Poley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me first say that I very much appreciate the work that was put into this by Council members Mendez, and I know Councilman Sledge had a lot to do with this as well. These are two forward-thinking council members for whom I have great respect. I would tell you that when I got elected to this office, the last place I really thought I'd be wading into was this debate. So it kind of reminds me of when I got married. I probably should have taken a lot more marriage counseling for my ill-fated marriage. I really need a lot more for this than I've had. So one of the things I want to point out is that I do need a little more time to look through this stuff because there's some conflicting information out there when I drill down on some of the data. We have one set of people who tell us that Metro Legal, when I talked with Mr. Cooper, the last time I spoke with him this afternoon, he's of the opinion that this ordinance does not apply to the Sheriff's Department, state constitutional officer. Is that correct, Mr. Cooper?
We haven't issued a definitive opinion yet. We're still researching the issue. As of today, our opinion is that it would not apply to the sheriff as it relates to detention and the sharing of information unless the sheriff elected to abide by it. I think that would be his choice, and that's as a result of the exclusive jurisdiction he has under both the charter and the state law for control and custody over the jail, as well as the state. There's a state statute that one of the powers that the sheriff is given is to, he has the duty to receive those that are lawfully committed to the jail. And so we're still looking at some of those issues, but at this point, that's where we are.
And I thank you for that. So we're still looking at it from a Metro Legal standpoint, who is our authority. And I believe my information as a sponsor is it has the belief that it does apply. So I believe that information is a conflict for me at this point. I also want a bill such as this to be driven by data and not really necessarily a narrative. When I look at the data on this as it applies to our city, I'm a little bit conflicted, and I'm not sure that I have enough information to make a solid opinion on that. I know that there's been an awful lot of effort put into this by the sponsors, and it's really new to me. And I really would like a little more time to drill down on a lot of this data. So I would ask the sponsor to consider deferring this so we can have a little bit more time to get comfortable with this topic. It is controversial, and as you can see by the emails and the phone calls that I've received, most often as I read the ordinance, the language I'm hearing from people out in the community, more often than not, they don't really understand what it says, and I'm still getting comfortable with what it means myself. So I would ask that we move this to be consistent with 743 down to August. I know the sponsor initially said he wouldn't do it, but I would be comfortable with a deferral. Otherwise, I'm going to have to vote against this. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Councilman Withers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would just like to, for I guess a moment of levity, just point out that we learned in the last year that our police department is not comfortable that their officers can interpret someone's short-term rental permit status, much less their visa or immigration status. So I think that is quite a position for to put our police officers in. I also want to point out that I'm a member of the LGBT community, and in the LGBT community, even here in the United States, until a few years ago in some places, our family relationships were illegal and in some cases a felony. I think LGBT people in particular have an obligation to look out not only for other families that are trying to stay together despite some laws and despite some social pressures, but also to look out for members of our own community who are trying to escape torture and murder in their own home countries. And it's not always the case that in those countries that they would have protected status based on how that is viewed politically or within the religious environment in their country. So for that reason also, I'm strongly in support of this. I also want to point out that, I've received a lot of emails about the crime that is alleged to be coming from illegal immigrants. Well, District 6 has had a huge amount of crime lately, particularly in the Casey homes. And as far as I can tell, every person who was committing those violent crimes was in fact a United States citizen. I do not see any kind of a link between immigration status and crime, particularly violent crime, in my district, although I would welcome information from the police otherwise. I also think that a lot of this debate is racialized. Prior to moving down here to Nashville to be closer to my family, I lived in Chicago, and there was a rally on this issue in Chicago at that time, and what I learned is that quite a few of my Irish American citizens who were neighbors and even some of my in-laws at that time, that quite a few of their Uncle Seamuses were folks who were here illegally or undocumented or who had overstayed their visa. So in other communities that there are any number of people from any group or category or race or ethnicity or country of origin who could be here, but I know it's unfortunately the case that this gets racialized quite a bit, and in particular here in the South, and I think that's really unfortunate. With the question of what the state does, the state is at odds with Metro on any number of things, and I appreciate the point that Councilmember Swope has made, but the citizens elect us to act on their behalf, and this law does not negate federal law at all. It just says all we're going to do is we're going to follow the law, but we're not going to exceed it, and we're going to take a stand that we want residents in our community who often are business owners, who are parents of children who are MNPS students, that we want everyone to feel that they can speak to the police. Because if they can't speak to the police, you see what happens in communities like Casey, where crime does break out because people are afraid to testify as a witness. They're afraid to come to court to receive services for their family. That creates all sorts of problems for our community. I think that the closet that some of the immigration policies in this country create, that is the safety problem in our community, and I stand in support of these ordinances. Thank you.
Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. A couple of questions on this. Councilman Pulley had asked a question, I think, that went to Mr. Cooper about, I think it was the application to the sheriff's office. Mr. Jameson, have you looked at that as well? Do you have a position on that?
About 2 days ago, I read Sheriff Hall's comments in the paper indicating that it was not applicable to him, and I started some research. I would caution that this is not complete, and that I'm not finished reviewing what I think is a large body of information. What I came across, at least initially, led me to conclude initially that I think an argument could be made that it applies to the sheriff, but that is not complete by any stretch of the imagination. I can recite the lead points if you want me to. The sheriff is a constitutional officer. His office is stated in the Tennessee Constitution. He's a state officer. But our charter makes clear that he's also deemed an officer of the Metro government. A case came out shortly after the adoption of the charter called Metro versus Poe, and it made pretty abundantly clear that the sheriff, as a metropolitan officer, is bound by the functional, budgetary, and purchasing provisions of the charter and personnel provisions. And I think the proponents of this bill would construct this as a budgetary and personnel provision. State law sets out the sheriff's obligations in a lengthy statute in Title VIII, and one of the specific provisions is it requires the sheriffs to enforce the ordinances of a municipality. The charter, in our charter that adopted in '63, takes advantage of that assumption and specifies some requirements for the sheriff to abide by. That is the fundamental question, is can we as a metro government, tell a state officer what to do. We tell the sheriff by charter and by ordinance that he has to patrol this building and other metro buildings. The charter also says this: the council may, by ordinance, upon recommendation of the Metropolitan Chief of Police and Sheriff, authorize the sheriff to perform duties as may be unassigned by the charter or currently assigned to the Metro Chief of Police relating to the intake, processing, identification, and questioning of detainees, prisoners, and other persons in official custody. In other words, we have taken the opportunity, both in our charter and in ordinances, to specifically dictate what the sheriff must do in certain realms. The question is this within that realm? One last point I would add or finish with is a subsequent case called Villegas, Renterio Villegas versus Metro. This was an infamous decision back in 2012, the lady that was shackled, the pregnant woman. What that case addresses is what the sheriff is affirmatively allowed to do when this council is telling him to engage in a contract with ICE. Can he do that? This instance is the flip of that. What can the sheriff refuse to do that we tell him to do? Here's a line in the conclusion of that decision. Our ruling in Poe, the decision I just told you about, does not prohibit a construction of the charter which allows the sheriff to perform the federal immigration officer duties in the memorandum of understanding when directed to do so by Metro and in the absence of action by the chief of police. The case this presents is that you are directing him not to do so, and that's the gray area. But again, I would underscore that I'm not complete with the research. We've had a budget to get through.
Right, and it sounds like you've done a lot. Real quick, a question for the sponsor. How does this bill, if passed, help impacted people feel safe, and in particular children? If I can ask that for the sponsor.
If I come back to the sponsor.
Again.
If we come back to the sponsor, I have 7 other people before I get to him.
You've got 13 seconds. So that's my question. I'll repeat it again. How does this bill impact folks, particularly their children? Thank you.
Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. You know, as a retired police officer of 33 years, it's difficult sometimes to voice your opinion in a personal way. But I just want to say that I heard the word criminal being used many times tonight. And we're not talking about criminals. We're talking about undocumented people with a heartbeat, that take breath, that live their lives the way we live our lives. Criminals, I don't have a problem with criminals being deported because they are not a productive member of our society. They've got to go. But we have thousands and thousands of people, living, breathing people that abide by our laws, that pay taxes, that go to work each day, that all they want is a better life, and that's what this country's for, not the criminals. I agree completely with the idea of deporting criminals. So before we go on, we need to think that we are talking about brothers and sisters of me and you. And this country has always been there to give the opportunity for our brothers and sisters. I know there's a legal way of doing that, yes, but that not necessarily is the most, well, it's not the easiest. It's antiquated. It's been, what, 87 years since they've revised some of the immigration laws as far as citizenship, so it's very difficult. But I don't want to go there. I'm going to stick on the law enforcement side, something I know a little bit about. And that is I'm sure a lot of you may have gotten the information from the Attorney General. On May the 22nd of this year, Attorney General Jeff Sessions issued a memo that considering department's grant-making components and the definition of what he, as the Attorney General, and what he expects from federal authorities to do. And according to that is, only jurisdictions that will willfully limit mandatory information sharing to ICE is violating USC 1373 will be considered a sanctuary jurisdiction. Now, we're not a sanctuary jurisdiction, and we're not limiting information to the federal government, to the federal law enforcement. I would be the first one. I can assure you, before I even put my name on that sponsor, as a sponsor, I had to make sure I'm not going to go against my other brothers and sisters, the law enforcement community, they said, they being Metro Police Department and people within the rank and file also, that it is not going to hinder the way they enforce their laws, the law, because it doesn't. They will they're not going to not comply with any federal government, with any federal request. If they have federal authorities have a warrant, so be it. They will assist or detain whatever is necessary to enforce the law. So I can assure you, law enforcement will abide by the law that is currently on the books, and they are not. But they say that this is not affecting their ability to enforce state, local, and federal law. So I want to kind of ease that myth, so to speak. Also, some more information that was on there, and I can go on, but I know we on. Well, that's it.
There you go, sir. Councilor Johnson, Mina.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am one of the co-sponsors of the bill. This bill, to me, very personal. I am the second naturalized citizen to be elected in this body. And, you know, we as a Nashville, we say welcoming city. What does it mean? What does it mean to be a welcoming city? Is this just a lip service? Or these are people, you know, it was said this bill will create new classified class. It doesn't. They're already here. The people who caught in unfortunate circumstances, they're here living among us. Your next door neighbor, somebody who might cut your grass, somebody who might clean your house, somebody who might take care of your nails, or somebody prepare your food, somebody work in the kitchen. They are here, and they are hurting, fearful. And you heard the comment, you know, those little boys and girls, their mother go out of the door. They're scared. Is my mother coming back? Or is my father coming back? Because they might be retained by police officer, and then they might send two immigration officer just because they did not have driver's license. If you are natural-born citizen, they do not have driver's license, you don't go to jail. You just send back to citation, and then you get to go home. The people who we are trying to help and protect, they do not know. They are living in such a fear, minute and day after day. So that's how we act as a city, as a welcoming city. We can do something about it. This is the ordinance that we will do something about it to hear those people who caught very unfortunate circumstances. We can help them. We can reduce their fear. And at the same time, we can make our city safe, because police officers don't have to go after to asking if they are legal immigrant or non-legal immigrant. They don't have to use precious resource wasting that kind of question. Instead, they can go after patrolling our neighborhood. They can go after indeed has criminal record. So we are asking, do not waste our precious local resource. Try to make the society safe for everybody who live in here. The people who happen to be non-documented because we do not have a system. They say, yeah, get into the line. They will. If there is a line for them to get in, they will. They want to be asking for asylum. There's no system to be asylum. Those people who came there 2 years, 3 years, and grew up in here, if there's a system for them to sign up and become citizens, they will do it heartbeat. But there's no system. They are a victim of circumstances. So what can we do? We are only asking, do not criminalize them. Just be an open heart. Treat them as our neighbors. That's what this bill is for. So I ask you to support this bill. I know you do have so many questions, but let's pass this bill tonight. Have them feel safe to go home this evening from this podium. I ask your support.
Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. You know, about 10 years ago, I was a reporter, and I was the only person at the time who spoke Spanish in the newsroom. So I got put on immigration pieces. I got put on immigration stories. And so I went down to Colombia about 10 years ago and spoke with the sheriff who was there at the time, who had just that week had conducted raids in the Colombia community, and there had been about a dozen people that he had basically arrested. And the cause was being in the country illegally. And the case then was exactly the situation we are in now. This is Columbia in Murray County, where the people in the city, the people who had fiancés and husbands and wives and cousins who were impacted by this, it didn't matter where they were from, it didn't matter what their economic background was. They said, I don't understand why they're going after a certain person, why they're going after a certain group of people. And we're sitting here, and 10 years later, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in Nashville. Nothing has changed in our country. And so we get stuck with having to say that we're going to do something different. And it's not all that different. There are hundreds of cities in our country who have taken the exact same steps that we have. And they're not all the New York cities and the Los Angeles of the world. They're places like Clarkston, Georgia. They're places that know that they have a population that is not protected the same way that they are. And yet they try to create those protections. Just this week, we have seen that a community that I think we would all consider to be protected in this city, the Kurdish community, have door-to-door raids at 6 o'clock in the morning. This is a Kurdish community that was brought here by other organizations 30 years ago to flee a person that we then sent troops into his country to take out. So clearly we had a priority there, and our priority was keeping people safe no matter where they were. That's the priority that we have tonight. It's keeping people safe no matter who they are, no matter where they are, and no matter where they come from. So I want to talk a little bit. I know that Councilman Schulman had asked a little bit about the impact of families and children by this bill, and Council Lady Johnson spoke to it a little bit. But we have parents that aren't going to PTO meetings anymore. We have parents that aren't taking their children to get immunized anymore. And that's not a narrative. That's from Metro Health. They're not taking them to get immunizations. We have domestic violence victims who aren't reporting crimes, or they'll report it, but they won't follow up because they're terrified of what will happen with them and what will happen to their children. That's the mothers of these children that we're talking about. We have kids who don't know where they're going to go to school next year. And that's not, if they're going to go to one middle school over another, that's what state they're going to be in, what country they're going to be in, because all they hear is what's on the news. A fifth grader shouldn't have to know how long it is until he might potentially not have to worry about that anymore. That's a fifth grader. I've had the opportunity, because my wife has worked with a lot of the people who are behind us for the last decade. And so I know some of these people. I know some of the kids who are in this audience. And if we want to talk about what impact this has, ask them. They're right here. We're not talking about an imaginary population. We're not talking about a population that's hiding in the shadows. We're talking about Nashvillians who are participating despite the fact that they don't get the opportunity to do many of the things that we in the chamber do. They don't get the opportunity to vote. They don't get the opportunity to go to college and enjoy in-state tuition. And they don't get the opportunity a lot of times to move freely throughout our society without the fear of discrimination. We can't do something about all of those things, but we sure as heck can do something about one of them, and that's why we got to do something tonight.
Councilman Hastings.
Thank you, Mr. President. I see this is a really, really deep topic, but I only stand in a place of Councilman Swope is my ace boon coon, but I have to stand up and be on the opposite side of you today, because this is I represent the largest minority district that is in this county. And I represent the people that are speaking out, who have loved ones and who are crying and who are trying to figure out life's answers to life's questions. I don't know what the end conclusion is going to be overall, but I know we do have an issue that we have to fix. Now, we are not going to be able to fix this tonight, but we are able to take steps into finding the best situation that we can as a metropolitan government. So I am going to stand in support of this as I represent the individuals who are here speaking out on behalf of their families, on behalf of their children, the children who are going to school, because you know what? I am only I'm an American, but in history, you know, we had a voyage here as an African American, and we were not just brought over here by will. Makes me consider some things, but I do know that these people, individuals, they have hearts, they have families, and we have to stand up on their behalf. And that is what I was elected to do. And their families and friends that were able to support and go and vote for me, I have to stand in the gap. So I ask for those of you who are council members who are on the line, if you would, please support this bill.
Council Lady Weiner.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. This is hard. This is about people. It's about families. It's about children. But it's also about our laws. And it's about making informed decisions. It's not about making a decision based on emotion. It's about making decisions based on information and based on fact. But make no doubt, this is hard. This is a hard decision. It's a decision that I never thought, like Councilmember Pulley, that I'd ever have to sit here and make. However, here we are. I want to share just a few things. We're a welcoming city, but the potential consequences are great. And quite frankly, we don't know the answer. We don't know. And we need to know before we push the button. We need to know before we make the decision what Mr. Cooper has to share with us. We need Mr. Jameson to know the resolution of the investigation and research he's undertaking. We need to know what the Attorney General is going to tell us based on the questions that I have asked him. We need answers, and we just don't have those yet. Until we have those answers, I have to be a no, and I don't like being a no. But I like making a decision, and I like being able to make a decision of yes based on information, based on good information. So to that end, I would like to move to defer this until the first meeting in August. Thank you.
Councilman Mendez, you're next.
Well, I would like to oppose the motion to defer. I mean, the comments boil down to two, the comments opposed, and I'll respond briefly, and this is why I think that we shouldn't defer. The question just raised by the council lady from Bellevue about we need answers. You know, we have third reading. This is second reading. It's customary that we pass on second and get to third reading and make final decisions then. Secondly, we heard from Legal Director Cooper in one of the committee meetings that it's not the practice of the Attorney General and hasn't been for a number of years to comment on hypothetical legislation from municipalities, and I wouldn't expect that that they would comment here. I won't use my time asking Mr. Cooper that, but I'm sure he'd agree if anybody else wants to ask. I do want to also address the comments from the councilman from District 4. The argument basically boils down to this legislation would discriminate against us citizens. And I was reminded of a quote that we all know, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. This argument has been made repeatedly, not by Mr. Swope, but by others in the history of the country, first in connection with the abolition of slavery, that doing so would discriminate against us citizens who'd been here longer. The same argument was made when the discussion was made about whether women should be given the right to vote. The argument was made when Japanese Americans were interred on the west coast of the United States. History will judge what people do on these issues, and the fact of the matter is that in order to treat our neighbors who came to be our neighbors, not through our actions, nothing we could have done to help or hinder them becoming our neighbors, they are our neighbors and we need to treat them as such. This should be passed. It's second reading. We've heard all the arguments in favor. Please don't defer it.
There's three other lights, Bedney, Gilmore, and Sledge. Do you want to be heard on the motion to defer or on the main bill? Councilman Bedney on the main bill. Councilor Gilmore.
Thank you. I think all the colleagues that are for this bill have spoken well, so there's no need for me to rehash what has already been said. But, you know, we do have one more reading, and I think is never the wrong time to do the right thing. And I was listening, and I was hoping I didn't have to speak, but I do get concerned when we talk about what's American and who's American and how we create laws and how we determine under those laws who can be a part of society or not, because we are the lawmakers. I mean, I think we forget that sometimes. We make the laws. We decide whether something's legal or not. And I think it gets really dicey when we talk about how others are illegal, and I think other council members have articulated it well. This is America, and we have come here in a lot of different ways, lots of different ways. Some of us were brought here many, many, many years against our will, our ancestors, so it's kind of tough when people talk about, oh, that person's a citizen or that person's not a citizen. As someone else alluded to, some people were put in internment camps. I mean, so just some really kind of horrible things have happened. But we make the laws, just like the people many years ago made the laws that say that either segregation was acceptable or it was not. Those people made the laws. So to argue and say that something's illegal or not, you have to find it within yourself morally where you are going to decide where you're going to be on the issue. It's no playing around. We make the laws. And that's not even up for discussion. We make the laws. And when he read the piece about the 60s, it really kind of disappointed me. We shouldn't even have a discussion about that, because if we were talking about the 60s, we wouldn't even be in here, the people of color. So we have to update the laws, and we have to decide what's right. So I don't think we should get into the piece about what's more American or who's American, because it depended on what war or what war you weren't in, or how you were kidnapped, or maybe you weren't, or maybe you had an X on your chest, or maybe a triangle on your head, you know, or maybe something got burned down. It depends on where you are. So I think we have to decide what we're going to do. Either people are just like us. I hate the word alien. I think the other council member alluded to that. There are no aliens here. We are all humans, and we have to decide as a city of Nashville, will we give other people the same dignity that was afforded us by whatever way we came here, whether you are a woman, a man, Black, white, gay, Jewish, we all came here by some way. You just didn't come here and you were automatically a citizen. So we need to decide what we're going to do. I stand in support. I don't support the deferral. I think we'll get more clarity from our wonderful, illustrious attorneys because they're very good at what they do. And if we need to craft it better and fix it more, we can. But to sit up here and say that it's against the law, we make the law. So I don't want to hear that piece. And I don't want to hear the piece about American. Because we decide what's American. We decide what's Nashville. We decide what's it. We are the ones that can make the decisions right now. Thank you.
Councilman Sledge.
I respectfully move the motion to defer to the table.
Well, you're the last one to be heard on it, so we don't need to do that unless you really want to. I mean, you can just vote on it. I mean, it's up to you.
That's fine. I'll retract mine.
No, right. Thank you. I think that all in favor of the motion to defer? Opposed?
No.
Motion fails. Councilman Bednang.
Yeah, you probably all got an email from Council Lady Burchard just now, and I just wanted to thank her for asking those questions, but I also wanted to reiterate that we wouldn't have to have this conversation if it wasn't because of the executive order that just happened last January. If we didn't have that executive order, we wouldn't have to do what we are doing. The president is asking us to deputize our police officers and to put people in jail here in Nashville. That's what he's asking. He's saying he won't pay for it. He's saying we'll pay for it. And the reason we have to do this, and the reason why the police never had to do it, and we have to help the police not to have to do it, is because of that executive order. So I beg you to see this in the context of, it's not us coming out of the blue with something. It's us trying to protect our city from liability, from spending money that we don't have. God knows I tried to get one police officer to do traffic enforcement. That's $150,000, and I couldn't get it. And we're talking about spending $400 million, keeping 33,000 people in jail for 180 days, and nobody seems to have a problem with that. So I'm saying we are being asked by the president to do something. This is your chance to draw a line and say, we want to help you with immigration, but we don't want to put our city in a liability situation where we have to deputize our officers to do something they are not trained to do. Thank you.
No one else seeking recognition. Madam Clerk, if you'd open the machine. I'm not going to do anything with it. Madam Clerk. Anyone else seeking to vote? Madam Clerk, if you'll close the machine and tally the vote.
I have 25 for, 8 against, 4 abstentions.
BL 2017-740 amends the Metro Code establishing a right for pedestrians to the use of certain streets. Councilman Anthony Davis.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilman Pardue. Councilor Roberts. Councilor Roberts.
Public Safety, Beer, and Regulated Beverages voted 5 for, 0 against.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommended approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking, approved 5 for, 0 against.
Councilman Davis.
Move approval with a very brief comment.
The floor is yours.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is more of an awareness ordinance, and thanks to the committees for approving. Basically just tweaking the code for pedestrian rights to match what we do for bicycles currently, allowing the 3-foot rule for pedestrians. So just a small tweak, but really trying to build some awareness on this, and I think it'll be good to fix the code on that. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-741. Council Lady Hurt, Council Lady Allen. Amends the Metro Code requiring notice of parking fees, fines, and penalties to be posted parking lots and garages. Council Lady Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee reports,
Councilman
please.
Hager. Councilman Hager. 741.
741, traffic and Pavilion parking deferred one meeting by rule.
I move to defer for one meeting with a brief explanation. And that is, we want to make sure that this can be enforced in private places as well as public. So that will give us an opportunity to make sure that we would be in compliance and can enforce that notices be given. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I support the deferral, but would like to go ahead and move the amendment now if we could before we defer, if that's okay with the original sponsor. Simply to have that on the book so people will know what it says.
No, seeing no objection from Council Lady Hurt, there's a motion to amend. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're now on motion to defer this bill as amended. One meeting. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill 2017-743, Councilman Mendez, Sledge, and others. Terminates a contract approved by ordinance number 096-567 that approved an agreement with the U.S. Marshal Service to house federal inmates. Councilman Mendez.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted to defer by a vote of 12-2.
Council Lady Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Beer, Public Safety, and Regulated Beverages voted to defer to the first week of August.
Councilman Mendez, I believe that's deferred by rule.
5-0.
Thank you.
Deferred by rule. BL 2017-744, Councilman O'Connell, Elrod, and others approves a parking agreement between the Metro Traffic and Parking Commission and Warner Music Incorporated for the use of up to 35 parking spaces for a fee in the library parking garage. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted to defer 14-0 for one meeting.
Councilor Allen. Sorry, Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning Committee voted 6-4-0 oppose and recommend approval.
Thank you, Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking voted to defer one meeting, 5-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilman O'Connell, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think we will move to defer for one meeting.
Motion to defer one meeting is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-745. Council Lady Allen, Councilman Elrod authorizes Family and Children's Services Incorporated to install, construct, and maintain an underground encroachment in the right-of-way at 2400 Clifton Avenue. Council Lady Allen.
Mr. Vice Mayor, committee reports, please.
Council Lady Johnson.
Yes, Planning and Zoning Committee voted 8-4-0 against.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-746. Council Lady Dowell, Cooper, and others approves a participation agreement between the Department of Public Works and Century Farm LLC for the design and construction of access roads connecting Cane Ridge Road and Old Franklin Road to the I-24 interchange at Hickory Hollow Parkway. Council Lady Dowell.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted 14-4-0 to recommend as amended.
Council Lady Johnson. Mina.
Yes, Planning Zoning voted 8-4-0 against as amended.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against, as amended.
Council Lady Dowell, let's move that amendment.
Yes, and I'd like to move the amendment.
The motion to amend is properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Your Honor, bill is amended.
And I would like to move the bill as amended for approval.
There's a motion to approve. The bill is amended. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-747, Dowell, Cooper, and others authorizes the acquisition of certain right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights for use in public projects for purposes of the Cane Ridge Road, Old Franklin Road, Preston Road, and Cane Ridge Parkway roadway improvements. Council Lady Dowell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted to recommend 14-4-0 against.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning recommended, voted 8-4-0 against for approval.
Councilman Elrod, I believe.
Public Works recommended approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, and I'd like to move for approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill 2017-748, Council Lady Van Rees, Pardue, and others approves a lease agreement between Metro Government and Due West Towers LLC for temporary office space at 610 Due West Avenue. Council Lady Van Rees.
Committee reports.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted to recommend 14-4-0 against.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted 8-4-0 against for recommendation.
Council Lady Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Public Safety and Bureau voted 5-4-0 against.
Council Lady Van Rees.
Thank you. I move approval with a brief comment.
Floor is yours.
This, just as a reminder, is the lease agreement with the Sheriff's Department as they are building their new offices for them to join us in Madison at the Due West Towers, formerly known as the Memorial Hospital site. And again, this is at Due West Avenue, not West Due West Avenue or East Due West Avenue. Just be clear on that. With that, I move approval.
Yeah, clear as mud. The motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-749, Councilman O'Connell authorizes North Gulch Apartments LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at Joe Johnston Avenue and 11th Avenue North. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to request committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted 8-4-0 against for approval.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommended approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval, please.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-750, Sledge, Elrod, and Allen abandons a portion of Wedgewood Avenue right-of-way. Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted for 8-4-0 for approval.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager. 750.
I'm sorry. Traffic and parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Sledge.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-751, Councilman Hastings abandons Fresno Avenue right-of-way. Councilman Hastings.
Thank you again, Mr. President. Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you again, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted to approve 8-4-0 against.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Hastings.
Thank you again. Would like to move for approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-752, Syracuse, Elrod, and Allen abandons a portion of McGavick Pike right-of-way. Councilman Syracuse. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted 8-4-0 for approval.
Okay, Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Syracuse.
I move approval. Thank you.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-753, Councilman Freeman abandons a portion of alley number 1897 right-of-way. Councilman Freeman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zoning voted for approval 8-4-0 to approve.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking approved 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Freeman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
This motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-754, Councilman O'Connell, Elrod, and Allen abandons J.M. Frost Plaza right-of-way. Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to request committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning zone voted for 8-0 for approval.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works recommend approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Hager.
Traffic and parking approved, 5-4-0 against.
Councilman O'Connell.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval, please.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Bill 2017-755, Councilman Hastings, Elrod, and Allen. Abandons existing easement rights for former alley number 1078 for property located at 2508 Dickerson Pike. Councilman Hastings.
All right. Thanks again, Mr. President. I'd like to ask for committee reports, please.
Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and zoning voted to approve 8-0.
Councilman Elrod.
Public Works move for approval, 10 in favor, 0 against.
He's getting giddy back there. The floor.
Punch drunk, really.
Yeah, Councilman Hastings.
All right, Mr. President, we'd like to move for approval.
Motion approved. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to bills on third reading. BL 2016-408, Councilman Roten, changes 285.03 acres from AR2A to SP zoning for property located at 2040 Hickory Hill Lane to permit up to 500 single-family lots. Councilman Roten.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I'd like to move to defer this until the July 6th meeting.
All right. I see there's a substitute. You want to move that first, or you want to wait?
No, we'll have a different substitute at July 6th.
Motion to defer to the July 6th meeting. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-645, Pardue and Van Reese, amends the Metro Code to allow alcohol consumption by carriage passengers. Council Lady Van Reese.
Move approval.
Motion approved. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-724 establishes a program for the purpose of providing assistance to low-income elderly residents of the metropolitan government for their fiscal year 2017-2018. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-725, Cooper and Henderson, establishes a conservation assistance grant fund to facilitate conservation and preservation of properties with great natural, cultural, and environmental importance. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-727, Councilman Elrod, amends a Metro Code concerning the display of taxi cab permits. Councilman Elrod.
Move approval.
Motion to approve is properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-728, Pardue and others. I'm not sure who the others are, so one of them needs to raise their hand. Amends the Metro Code to add additional application requirements for the qualification permits and authorizes the Director of Transportation Licensing Commission to suspend, revoke, place on probation, or otherwise restrict licenses issued to booting companies. Anybody who's a sponsor? It says Pardue and others. He's not here, though.
Move approval.
Motion to approve. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. BL 2017-735, Cooper and Murphy, creates various positions in the Metro Pay Plan. Councilman Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Move for approval.
Motion to approve. All right. I'm sorry, Councilor Murphy. It's on third reading, so I didn't realize that.
Thank you. Personnel voted 4 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilor. And there's a motion, there's a proper motion to approve. It's been seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. 2 announcements before people leave. First, as one of the arcane relics of our consolidation, the Urban Council now has to meet. Councilmen Cooper, Mendez, and Schulman. If you'd please come to the front at the end of the meeting to vote on the, I think the urban tax rate, urban services district tax rate. And the second thing is that I'll be calling on Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would move that we adjourn our meeting to the next meeting on July 6th at 6:30 p.m.
I thought you were talking to him. Mike.
People aren't talking.
There's a motion to adjourn to July 6th at 6:30. It's properly seconded. Councilman Schultman.
Just to make sure, July 4th is on a Tuesday night, so we're meeting on Thursday night.
Correct, right. It's properly seconded. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Stay seated. Stay seated just for 2 seconds. First, Council Lady Weiner did send me a text. I don't know if you've all seen, but longtime servant of the city, Jim Fike, passed away tonight. He'd been sick for some time, so it's a sad moment for the city. Ms. Hall? There you go.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the council. Honestly, one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life as far as a job. And really my privilege to work with the wonderful people in the Metro Clerk's office. So be good to them. Thanks.
We are adjourned. Thanks again to Councilman Cooper for all his hard work.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.